A gentle breeze blew through the window screen. Arya wrapped her arms around the man's toned waist, her heart and body filled with a sweet warmth. But when she woke up, she was in bed with a complete stranger. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" The man's face was a mask of contempt. "Don't play innocent. You even investigated my room number. How much do you want? Just name your price." Arya broke down, crying, "I don't want money! Where's Leo?" The man realized something was wrong. He was supposed to meet his girlfriend last night, and when the woman came in, she was even wearing the perfume Bella always used. He suspected he'd been set up. Just then, Bella called. "I got a last-minute invitation to Milan. This is my dream, and I couldn't miss this chance. So I sent you a little gift as compensation. Are you satisfied?" The man glanced at the weeping Arya. Bella's voice continued over the phone. "I picked this gift out especially for you. It was her first time. Wasn't it nice?" The man let out a dark laugh. "Having such a thoughtful girlfriend. Of course, it was nice." Arya cried, her heart shattered, unable to understand how this could have happened. No matter what, no one could ever find out about this. She rushed into the bathroom, frantically scrubbing away the disgusting traces of the night from her body. The man wrote out a check. "I'll take responsibility for last night. Take this 5 million, but you can't tell anyone about what happened between us." Arya bit her lip in humiliation. After what she'd been through, he was insulting her with money. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Arya immediately ran out of the bathroom, thinking it must be Leo. She clung to the fantasy that her boyfriend had just stepped out for a bit, and this stranger had simply walked into the wrong room. But her hopes were crushed in the next second. It was a hotel waiter delivering breakfast. The man ate his breakfast leisurely and reminded her to take the check. Arya screamed, "Who wants your filthy money?" and slammed the door on her way out. Walking down the street, she got a message from her boyfriend. "I waited for you all night. Why didn't you come? My flight is about to take off. I'll be back for you." Arya called her best friend, wanting to ask if she'd given her the wrong keycard, but her phone was off. The beautiful life she had with her boyfriend was gone forever. Heartbroken, Arya wandered aimlessly into the middle of the street and was almost hit by a car. The furious driver yelled, "If you want to die, don't take the rest of us with you." Just then, her boyfriend's mother called. Her voice was ice cold. "Leo was sent abroad by his company for advanced training. His status is different now. We never approved of you two, and we hope you'll leave him on your own instead of clinging to him. There's another girl with Leo now. Her family and education are a perfect match for him. We would be delighted to have her as our daughter-in-law. A country girl like you is not good enough for our Leo." As if on cue, lightning flashed and a torrential downpour began, mirroring the bleakness in Arya's heart. She stumbled through the rain, lost and broken, like a trampled rose left in the dust. Arya desperately missed home and asked her company for time off to see her mother. But as she approached her front door, she heard furious shouting and immediately pushed her way inside. Her grandmother was screaming, "You tramp! You could only raise a little hussy." Her mother was kneeling on the floor as her grandmother threw a stack of photos at her face. "Look at your precious daughter, going to a hotel with a man at her age." Arya was stunned. They were indecent photos of her. Her grandmother then threw a cup of scalding water. "You useless woman who can't even have a child! The adopted mutt you brought home is no good either." Arya jumped in front of her mother, crying out in pain as the hot water hit her. On the TV, a news report was playing. This morning, the heir to the Vance Corporation was secretly photographed with a woman in a hotel room. The room was a mess, with clothes strewn everywhere. Seeing that Arya's scandal was even on TV, the grandmother grew even more enraged and started beating her with a cane. "How could our family raise a shameless girl like you? Both of you, get out!" Her weak father stood by, helpless. Her mother could only kneel and cry, begging her grandmother for forgiveness, changing nothing. This family was suffocating Arya. She made a vow, as soon as she earned enough money, she would take her mother and escape this hell. Arya worked for a massive multinational corporation. Without a degree from a prestigious university or any experience studying abroad, she had to handle logistical tasks on top of her regular duties. Her colleagues ignored her and didn't take her seriously. Her busy life helped her forget that night and that man. One day, the president suddenly called a board meeting. Her colleagues, eager to greet the president, pushed all their files onto Arya. Holding a thick stack of files, Arya suddenly felt dizzy, a wave of low blood sugar washing over her. Her body went limp, and she stumbled forward, falling right into Adrian Vance's arms. She tried to apologize, but her consciousness faded. At that moment, Adrian recognized her. He immediately had her sent to the hospital. He never expected this woman to be an employee at his own company. How interesting. He was actually there to negotiate a partnership with a Korean company. The chairman of that company was a man who deeply valued family and would only enter long-term partnerships with people who cherished the same. Adrian smiled, assuring him that the Vance family had strict values and that he too prioritized family. Just then, his phone rang. It was the hospital. The doctor confirmed that Arya was 6 weeks pregnant, and the baby was perfectly healthy. 6 weeks? That was the night. So that's her game, he thought. No wonder she didn't want the 5 million. She was using the baby to secure her future. What a cunning woman. Adrian gritted his teeth, struggling to maintain his composure. The Korean partners mentioned they would visit the country soon to sign the final contract. The chairman and his wife would be coming together, and they hoped Adrian would bring his wife as well. After the meeting, Adrian's suppressed anger erupted. That woman had almost made him lose his cool and ruin a multi-billion-dollar deal. This time he would make her pay. He stormed into the hospital, only to find his grandmother already there, smiling at a doctor. As long as the baby is born safely, the Vance family will reward you generously. Adrian rushed over. Grandma, what's going on? His grandmother was overjoyed. The Vance family is about to have its 4th-generation heir. Adrian tried to explain. It's all a misunderstanding. Bella doesn't want to get married yet, so how could there be a 4th generation? His grandmother's face darkened. If Isabelle is too focused on her career to know what's good for her, then let her be. Do you think the great Vance Corporation can't find a woman willing to bear your child? Adrian froze. Grandma, you're not actually planning on letting this woman have the baby, are you? She scowled. You promised me you would be married by 28. Isabelle has been stringing you along without any commitment. Why would I want a woman like that as my granddaughter-in-law? Hearing the name Bella, Arya began to wake up. She opened her eyes to see the matriarch of the Vance family smiling down at her. You're finally awake. We've been waiting for you. You're a hero to the Vance family now. The chairwoman of the Vance Corporation, Adrian's grandmother, took her hand. As long as you successfully give birth to this child for the Vance family, I will not treat you unfairly. Arya's eyes widened, her heart pounding in her chest as she trembled. She was pregnant. She clutched her head and cried out in despair. Why isn't it Leo's baby? Why is fate so cruel? Meanwhile, Adrian stood firm, declaring he would never marry a woman he didn't love. Arya remembered how her grandmother had nearly thrown her out. If news of the pregnancy got back to her family, she and her mother would be finished. She was forced to make a choice. I will only give birth to this child if we get married. Adrian agreed, his face an emotionless mask, and began preparing for the wedding. One of them, seeing Adrian, pretended to faint into his arms, only to be shoved away without a second thought. Tell her to get her final paycheck from finance and never show her face here again, he said coldly. They had no idea that Arya was now watched over constantly, with less freedom than a prisoner. The one silver lining was the food, which was more lavish than anything she had ever seen. The two of them sat across from each other at dinner, the silence thick with unspoken words. The atmosphere was incredibly awkward. Arya sighed. This silent treatment was worse than not seeing him at all. But from the moment he agreed to the marriage, Adrian had decided to fulfill his duties, and only his duties. When he saw her eat a 3rd slice of salmon, he immediately stopped her, explaining it wasn't good for the baby. He was even controlling what she ate. In Arya's eyes, he was a demon. Adrian brought over a bowl of fragrant bird's nest soup, saying it was good for her. But Arya didn't want it and shook her head. He stubbornly scooped up a spoonful and held it to her lips. Open your mouth. This man was the devil incarnate. Arya had no choice but to swallow it. Adrian smiled. Good girl. Seeing his handsome face and captivating eyes up close, Arya's heart fluttered, and she couldn't help but remember their passionate night together. After forcing down a few more bites, her expression suddenly changed. She covered her mouth and ran for the bathroom. I feel so sick. I'm going to throw up. Adrian was speechless. Did she have to react so dramatically just because she didn't want to eat? When she returned, he said coldly, even if you don't want to, you have to eat. You might not mind going hungry, but I can't have the Vance family's 4th-generation heir starving. Arya's mood soured instantly. In a fit of defiance, she grabbed the bowl of soup and gulped it down, wiping her mouth roughly. Seeing her cute, pouting expression, Adrian couldn't help but laugh. Arya's face turned bright red, confused by his amusement. That night, she couldn't sleep, wondering why Adrian had suddenly joined her for dinner. He hadn't even seemed disgusted by her morning sickness. She couldn't figure him out. Arya tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Just then, she heard voices outside her door. The president only eats with the young madam because the chairwoman ordered him to. I heard them talking about it the other day. Arya's eyes widened. She had been foolish to think otherwise. It was all just wishful thinking. She placed a hand on her stomach with a sad expression. All Adrian cared about was the baby inside her. Calming herself, Arya stopped overthinking and started tending to the plants. Seeing the vibrant, beautiful flowers brought a smile to her face. When Adrian saw her smile, he was taken aback. He hadn't realized she could look so lovely. Thinking she loved flowers, Adrian ordered for more fresh bouquets to be placed in her room. Arya was touched but reminded herself, he's not being nice to me, he's just concerned about the baby. It was time for her routine checkup. Listening to the rhythmic beeping of the machine, Adrian, who was by her side, felt a sense of wonder. Is that the baby's heartbeat? The doctor smiled and nodded. Yes, and listen to how strong it is. The baby is very healthy. It seems the young madam's conditioning has been very effective. Arya smiled, gently stroking her belly. For the baby's sake, she knew she had to eat more. Adrian's heart swelled with emotion. He looked at her still flat stomach. That's my child. During dinner, he stayed by her side, thoughtfully placing food on her plate and urging her to eat more. But Arya looked unwell. Everything she ate made her feel nauseous. Adrian, thinking she just didn't like meat, immediately offered her some vegetables. Arya was surprised. What was with him today? Had he been possessed? But then she remembered his cold words. This child cannot have any mishaps, and told herself he wasn't being kind to her, just the baby. Her expression fell. What was she to him? Certainly not someone worthy of the great president's attention. Seeing them getting along so well, the Vance matriarch decided they would go to Arya's family home the next day to formally propose. Arya was startled. Worried about scaring her mother, she wanted to go home first to give her family a heads up. The matriarch firmly refused. You'll be given all the proper courtesies. We can't risk anything happening to the baby in your belly. Arya's eyes filled with tears as she looked pleadingly at the man beside her. Adrian paused, seeing her helpless expression. Is she asking me for help? He immediately spoke up. Grandma, she's not a child. She knows what she's doing. His grandmother laughed. What a filial child. All right, you can go home first to let them know. But as the young madam of the Vance family, you can't go alone. Arya's face lit up. Her grandmother suggested that Adrian's assistant, a sharp and capable young man, should escort her. Adrian glanced at the overjoyed woman, unable to believe he had just pleaded her case. Arya was driven home by Adrian's assistant. When her grandmother saw her, she exploded in anger. You shameless mutt! You still have the nerve to come back. Her cousin Jenna watched with a smug, gloating expression. The assistant cleverly set down the gifts and excused himself, taking the opportunity to report the situation to the president. Even with the house full of expensive gifts, the grandmother wasn't satisfied. Don't think a few cheap gifts will make up for the shame you've brought on us. I'm embarrassed even if you aren't. Jenna's fiancé's family is coming to propose tomorrow. If you mess anything up, you can all get out of this house. The family can't afford any more humiliation. Arya quickly explained, I came back to discuss my own marriage. These are gifts from my fiancé for you. The man who just left was his driver. The grandmother was taken aback. A son-in-law who could afford so many valuable gifts and had his own driver was definitely wealthier than Leo. Her tone changed in an instant. Such a thoughtful boy. But marriage proposals are a matter for the parents to discuss. Surely his family understands basic etiquette. Arya nodded. I just came home to talk about it first. They'll be visiting formally very soon. Jenna chimed in sarcastically. Found a sugar daddy that fast? I wonder if your future husband is a bald old man or some ugly freak. Arya's face hardened with displeasure. Jenna clung to her grandmother, whining. I'm getting married too, and there's a proper order to things. My fiancé is coming tomorrow, and you promised I'd be married off first. The family dowry was prepared for me, not her. The grandmother showed her favoritism. Arya, since your fiancé's family is so wealthy, don't fight with your sister over this small dowry. Your parents are useless. If you want a dowry, ask for a bigger bride price from the groom's side. Arya frowned. I had no intention of fighting Jenna for it. Only then was her grandmother satisfied. Jenna's fiancé is coming tomorrow. You and your mother need to do all the work so we don't look bad. Jenna has never had to lift a finger in her life as her older sister. You should help her out. What they didn't know was that the assistant had the call on speakerphone, and Adrian had heard everything. As the young madam of the Vance family, she couldn't be treated so shabbily. Make the arrangements, he commanded. Tomorrow, we make a grand entrance. The next day, Arya and her mother were up at dawn, working tirelessly, while her grandmother and Jenna dressed up, waiting to become the envy of the entire village. The sound of firecrackers announced the arrival of Jenna's suitor's family. Her fiancé grumbled, Do we really have to give them a 30,000 bride price? His mother smiled slyly. It's a generous amount, and it doesn't matter how much we give, it'll all come back to our family eventually. Besides, they have to provide a dowry in return. Arya, who came out to greet them, overheard and thought, they're already scheming before they're even married. The parents met and immediately began discussing the bride price and dowry, ordering Arya and her mother around. Suddenly, her mother accidentally dropped a cup and knelt to clean it up. The grandmother erupted. Must you ruin such a happy day? What sin did our family commit to let a woman like you in? The stray we picked up is ugly, and the moment she finds someone decent, she goes and sleeps around with some other man. Our family has the worst luck, stuck with a hen that can't lay eggs and a shameless little hussy. She threw another cup in their direction. Arya pulled her mother out of the way. This only made her grandmother angrier, and she raised her cane to strike. The guests looked on with disdain. So pretty, yet she'd do something so shameful? Just in the nick of time, the village chief arrived, grinning. Your family is truly blessed. Your granddaughter found a wonderful husband. You're all set for life. The grandmother chuckled. Of course, our Jenna is a fortunate girl, the chief quickly clarified, gesturing toward Arya. What? Everyone was stunned, looking on in disbelief. At that moment, a convoy of luxury cars was heading toward the house. Each one was a limited edition, top-of-the-line model. The entire village rushed out to see, forming a massive crowd. Jenna sneered. So what if he's rich? The only person who would marry you is probably some short, ugly, bald old man. Just then, a bodyguard opened a car door, and a man in a tailored suit stepped out. He was breathtakingly handsome. Everyone was speechless. Jenna couldn't believe it. How can he be so good-looking? Arya sighed. She knew this would happen. She was glad she hadn't come back with him. Adrian helped the elegant and regal Vance matriarch out of the car and walked toward the house. The crowd was stunned into silence by their sheer presence. The matriarch immediately noticed Arya's dirty, worn-out clothes and decided to put on a show for her. She smiled sweetly. My dear-in-laws, I've come to propose in person. I've brought a few small gifts. I hope you won't find them too modest. A bodyguard opened a gift box, and the contents nearly blinded the grandmother. A 1,000-year-old ginseng, 100-year-old deer antler, a tea set made of solid gold, a luxury Rolls-Royce. In terms of wealth, looks, and status, they completely overshadowed Jenna's suitor's family. Humiliated, the mother and son stormed off, muttering curses. The money-grubbing grandmother's attitude toward Arya did a complete 180. She took Arya's hand. My dear granddaughter, why didn't you tell me you had a boyfriend? She warmly invited them in. Quick, bring our esteemed guests inside. Adrian intimately took her hand and started walking in. Arya immediately pulled away. I don't want this. Adrian glanced back at her. Even if it's an act, you need to make it convincing. He leaned in, whispering in her ear. Considering how much face I'm giving you, don't let anyone see that something is wrong. The marriage was a done deal. Arya sighed in resignation and let him lead her forward. There was no going back, but this wasn't what she wanted. Adrian noticed her unease. Is she scared? Being so tense isn't good for the baby. Arya immediately pulled her hand back. Don't worry, I won't let it affect the baby. A little stress is nothing to me anymore. The mood between them instantly turned cold. Meanwhile, the matriarch elegantly announced, my grandson and Arya are deeply in love and are expecting the 4th-generation heir of the Vance family. Since the children are willing, I have no objections. Please accept this gift list, 8.88 million in cash and a villa worth 100 million, which will be transferred to Arya's name when the child is born. There are also some jewels, stocks, and bonds. Please don't consider it too shabby. The grandmother, who had never seen such wealth, was practically drooling. The Vance matriarch then had a bodyguard bring out a gift for the grandmother. Seeing a whole case of gold bars, the grandmother was ecstatic. What a generous in-law. The matriarch then turned to Arya's mother, asking if she had anything to add. The grandmother scoffed. What could she possibly have to say? I'm the one who makes the decisions in this house. Arya's mother looked hurt, and Arya's heart ached for her. Feeling even more uneasy, she said, Adrian, since it's your first time in the village, let me show you around. As she passed Jenna, her cousin's face was a mask of envy and hatred. With Jenna's engagement ruined, Arya knew her mother would face more abuse, and a bitter taste filled her mouth. Once outside, Adrian said, If you have something to say, you can say it here. Seeing all the bodyguards, Arya couldn't speak freely. She led him to her room. Adrian looked around. The room was small and simple, but very tidy. The Vance family doesn't need to give me that much money. Even if they did, I wouldn't see a penny of it. Adrian wasn't worried. The Vance family's money isn't that easy to take. The funds will only be transferred to your account after you give birth. Who you give it to after that is your own business. As he spoke, he turned and saw a photograph on her desk. It was Arya in a graduation gown, her smile radiant. As he reached for it, Arya snatched it away. Don't touch that! Adrian found her anger surprisingly charming. Or at least interesting. It was a complete contrast to Bella. He leaned in with a smirk. Is this photo special? Or is it the person who took it that's special? Arya's face flushed, and her heart began to race. She shoved him away, her thoughts drifting back to her college days, to the beautiful memories she shared with Leo, their innocent first love, their youthful days on campus. But all of that was gone. Adrian forcefully pinned her against the wall, bringing her back to the present. He cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. Don't forget, you're my woman now. The girl was in the middle of her wedding to the handsome president, when her best friend suddenly burst in and slapped her hard across the face. Arya stumbled and fell, instinctively protecting her stomach. Isabelle seethed with hatred. All of this was supposed to be mine. Have you no conscience? Adrian is my boyfriend, and you're marrying him. Arya clutched her cheek. I should be asking you, why was Adrian in room 1216 of the Hilton? Where was Leo? Isabelle shrieked. The keycard I gave you was for 1210. You were so desperate you took my keycard for Adrian. Why would I give you my boyfriend's room key? After all these years I've treated you so well, how could you do this to me? Arya was stunned. Could it be? Did I really take the wrong keycard? Out of her line of sight, Isabelle smirked, continuing her act of a heartbroken victim. Maybe we were both drunk and got them mixed up. But if you marry Adrian, what about me? What about Leo? How could you be so selfish? Leo has only been gone for 2 months and you do this. I can't believe I was friends with someone so heartless. I was blind. In the next moment, she threw her arms around Arya, pleading, Please, give Adrian back to me. I really love him. And Leo, what about him? You have everything and I have nothing. Arya was in tears. I'm pregnant with Adrian's child. I don't want to get married either, but they'll take the baby away from me. What else can I do? Isabelle urged her. Go find Leo. Tell him the truth. It was just a mix-up, not a real betrayal. He loves you so much, he'll definitely accept the baby. You and Adrian don't have any feelings for each other anyway. You won't be happy even if you get married. The words hit Arya like a revelation. Bella is right. I have to find Leo. She gathered her wedding dress and ran. But as soon as she reached the main gate, she was stopped by bodyguards. The ceremony is about to begin, young madam. Please go back. Arya pulled a hairpin from her hair and held it to her stomach. If you try to stop me again, and something happens to the Vance family's 4th-generation heir, can you take responsibility? Just then, Adrian appeared. And can you take responsibility? Running out like this, desperate to see your ex-boyfriend? Fine, I'll let you see him. If he's willing to run away with you, our marriage contract is void. Arya couldn't believe it. He was actually letting her see Leo. A sports car pulled up and Leo got out, his eyes darting around nervously. Something was wrong. Arya screamed, What did you do to him? Adrian was calm. I simply brought the person you wanted to see. Leo fidgeted. What do you want from me? Adrian suddenly asked, How much is Arya worth to you? Leo looked insulted. What are you talking about? She's priceless. But when 2 large cases filled with cash, $1 million were opened, he froze. Arya felt a sense of dread praying silently. Leo, please don't. Adrian smirked and raised the stakes. How about $5 million? You have a choice. Marry this woman and run away with her. Or give her up, take this money and leave. That limited edition Bentley is yours too. Leo collapsed before the mountain of cash, laughing hysterically. Seeing the madness in his eyes, Arya pleaded in her heart, Don't do this. You said our love was priceless. You said we would build our own future with our own 2 hands. Adrian leaned in, whispering, See? This is the true face of the man you've been dreaming of. Arya grabbed Leo's hand, begging, Let's go. We don't need his money. We can work hard and earn even more one day. Leo shoved her away. She cried out as she fell backward. But Adrian rushed forward and caught her in his arms. Leo cackled, This is all mine! Arya, you're so annoying. Adrian, his face dark, urged him to make a choice. The money, of course, you can have the woman. Leo joyfully grabbed the cases of cash, jumped into the Bentley, and sped away. Arya cried and ran after the car. Don't go! Don't leave me! She collapsed to her knees, her strength gone. This isn't real. If this is a nightmare, let me wake up! Tears streamed down her face as she screamed silently in her heart. Leo, I hate you! Isabelle, who hadn't expected things to turn out this way, tried to approach Adrian to explain, but she was stopped by bodyguards. The president has instructed that since Milan is so wonderful, Miss Isabelle shouldn't bother coming back. He's already booked your ticket. Then Isabelle was dragged away, screaming. That evening, Arya sat on the edge of the bed, listening to the sound of the shower, her anxiety growing. I'm married to Adrian Vance now. Maybe it's not such a bad thing. She touched her stomach. At least he's the baby's father. My child won't grow up without a dad. Since I've lost love, I can't lose this baby too. I have to be strong. Even if this marriage is just for show, it doesn't matter. Just then, Adrian emerged from the bathroom, with only a towel wrapped around his waist. He looked at her and said thoughtfully, I've drawn a bath for you. Go ahead. Arya's face turned beet red. Am I really going to sleep in the same room with this stranger? She shyly lowered her head and walked toward the bathroom. But she tripped on her dress and yelped as she fell forward. Instinctively, she flailed her arms and grabbed onto something. When she looked up, she froze. Adrian was standing there, completely naked. She had pulled off his towel. Arya let out a scream, her face so red it felt like it was on fire, and stammered an apology. But Adrian simply helped her up, his expression full of concern. Are you hurt? Arya was stunned. He wasn't angry. Adrian said gently, I'll sleep in the study tonight. You've had a long day. Get some rest. Watching his retreating back, Arya's heart pounded. But she quickly reminded herself, he's only doing this because of the baby. On the first day of her marriage, she was already eager to get back to work. If I don't send money home, my grandmother will make my mother's life miserable. But she was adamant. She had a job and couldn't just sit around. The assistant, Alex, had no choice but to call the president for instructions. Adrian scoffed. She calls that little job at a small department work? If she insists, then make her my assistant. Let's see how capable she is, turning down the easy life of a pampered wife to make a statement at the office. Soon, Alex brought her a new ID badge. Arya was surprised. Had Adrian known all along? Still, she was happy and immediately took the private car to the office. Her colleagues stared at her with strange looks, whispering behind her back. They mocked her for sleeping her way to the top and predicted it wouldn't last. If the president really cared about her, why hasn't he made it official? Arya ignored them. She had no desire to explain herself. But as she stepped out of the elevator, a group of bodyguards bowed respectfully. "Good morning, young madam." Arya was mortified. This was the office. It was far too conspicuous. She entered the president's office, where Adrian was engrossed in his work. The sight of his focused expression captivated her. Adrian looked up and down at the woman before him. His eyes first went to her shoes. Seeing that she was wearing flats, he was pleased. She knew how to protect the baby. "From now on, you are the head of the assistant team, in charge of coordinating everything for the president's office." Her first task was to review a proposal. "Can you handle it?" Arya was full of confidence and energy. "I can definitely do it," she thought to herself. "I have to do a good job. I can't let this man look down on me." Watching her work, Adrian was surprised. Beyond her timid side, she was quite captivating when she was serious. Just then, a secretary brought in coffee. Before Arya could refuse, Adrian shot a look over. "Take the coffee away. Replace it with milk, the kind reserved for the British royal family. And make sure it's warmed up." Arya thought, he really cares about his child. I guess I'm benefiting from that. Soon she finished the review and cautiously walked over to give it to the president. A moment later, the secretary brought her a glass of warm milk. Arya hesitated. She didn't like milk. Seeing her reluctance, Adrian gestured as if he would feed it to her himself. Startled, Arya quickly grabbed the glass and drank it down. Adrian told her to sit and drink slowly. Arya was speechless. He was so particular. "Is he a Virgo?" As if he could read her mind, he retorted, "I'm a Scorpio." Arya choked on her milk and started coughing. "He can even guess what I'm thinking? Is he even human?" Adrian chuckled. "You choked just from drinking milk? It seems I overestimated you." Arya gritted her teeth in frustration. This man was truly infuriating. "What's your sign?" he asked. "Cancer," she replied without thinking. The ever-present Alex chimed in, "Scorpio and Cancer are a 100% match." Arya was stunned, her face paling. "I don't want to be a perfect match with him." She forced herself to finish the milk, but the next second, her stomach churned. She covered her mouth and ran for the restroom. Alex broke out in a cold sweat. That was the president's private restroom. Employees weren't allowed to use it. But surprisingly, Adrian wasn't angry at all. Instead, he instructed, "Bring her something to eat every hour. And since she doesn't like the British royal milk, switch to the one used by the Japanese imperial family." Arya felt much better after getting sick. She looked around at the gold-plated toilet and luxurious decor. It was so extravagant. Poverty really does limit one's imagination. When she returned to the office, another glass of milk was waiting on her desk. She sighed. For the baby's sake, she drank it obediently. Adrian was on a call with a client, and she was surprised to hear him speaking fluent Korean. As time passed, Adrian praised her. "The review was well done. It seems you're not just a pretty face." Arya knew she didn't have the looks to be just a pretty face. She was average-looking, had no money, and didn't dress up like her colleagues. She had to work twice as hard to survive in this multinational company. The president leaned in devilishly. "So you can do other things too?" Arya's heart hammered in her chest. "Well, I've done a bit of everything." Just as a steamy scene was about to unfold, a voice shattered the moment. "Mr. President!" Alex, knowing he had interrupted at the worst possible time, muttering 1,000 apologies under his breath, he started to back away, but Adrian stopped him. "The vice president of Audi's group will be dining at the company restaurant today. You make the arrangements. Arya will attend with me. The reservation is for noon at the Serene Pavilion on the 3rd floor." Arya arrived at the company restaurant, and the employees started whispering. They assumed she was the president's mistress, so it wasn't surprising to see her there. Suddenly, someone grabbed her arm. She let out a cry of pain. The person sneered, "This isn't a place for someone like you. Don't you know the company rules?" Arya recognized her former manager. Biting her lip, she told herself, "Stay calm for the baby's sake." She summoned her courage and retorted, "The president instructed me to come up. Please let me go." Just then, Alex appeared. "Team leader, the president and his guest have arrived. They're waiting for you." The The manager immediately let go, terrified. This was the president's right-hand man. She couldn't afford to offend him. She'd let the little tramp go for now. Still, she wondered why even a presidential assistant would be allowed to dine on the third floor. Arya followed Alex to the serene pavilion, feeling a knot of anxiety in her stomach. But she remembered how she had endured being ostracized when she first started, and her confidence returned. As she was about to knock, she heard a woman's voice from inside. "President Vance, you truly are a king of the business world, cutting our profit margin by 5% with one move. Don't be so harsh. How are we at Audi supposed to survive?" Arya's mood soured. She remembered how Adrian had kissed her, and a pang of jealousy shot through her. What does that even mean? Alex, trembling, reminded her. "Team leader, we should go in." He was panicking internally. Oh no, the young madam must have misunderstood that conversation. Arya kept her head down, her expression unreadable. Her voice was cold. "Let's go in." She took a deep breath and lifted her head, composing herself. "I'm just his contract wife. We only got married for the baby. Who the president meets is none of my business." Upon entering, she bowed elegantly and apologized politely. "I'm sorry for being late." Seeing her poised demeanor, Adrian found it amusing. This woman was surprisingly good at keeping her composure. Arya's eyes, however, were fixed on the flirtatious woman's hand resting on his shoulder. The woman pouted. "Didn't you say this was a private lunch just for us?" Arya looked up and couldn't help but admire her. The woman was stunning, with an incredible figure. Alex, ever perceptive, pulled out a chair for Arya. "Please have a seat, madam." Adrian, legs crossed, smiled and made the introduction. "This is the vice president of Audi's, Rhiannon." Arya smiled gracefully and greeted her. "Ms. Rhiannon, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Arya." Seeing Alex pull out a chair for her, Rhiannon knew this woman was special to Adrian. She picked up a glass of red wine and walked over. "President Vance's assistants are all brilliant. I'm sure team leader Arya has her own talents. I'd like to propose a toast." Arya's smile stiffened. "You're too kind, Ms. Rhiannon." She was panicking. "I can't drink alcohol. What do I do?" She instinctively glanced at Adrian, her eyes pleading for help. But he seemed engrossed in his own wine, completely ignoring her. Arya was dumbfounded. A playful smile touched Rhiannon's lips as she held out the wine glass. "Let's see what makes you so special." Arya's eyes widened in desperation, frantically trying to think of a way out. Just then, Adrian walked over, took the glass from her hand, and stood in front of her. "She's just a team leader. Is she really worth your attention, Ms. Rhiannon? If you want a drink, I've been here the whole time." Arya was stunned, staring at the president. She couldn't believe he had stepped in for her. A wave of indignation washed over her. "A moment ago, he was completely ignoring me." Rhiannon's gaze shifted between Arya and Adrian. From what she knew of men, this woman was definitely not ordinary. A knock came at the door. Adrian looked toward it and asked who was there. Rhiannon raised an eyebrow. "It seems a lot of people want to join this lunch party today." Arya instinctively started to get up. "I'll get it." A warm hand gently pressed her back down. Arya's eyes widened as she looked at him in confusion. Adrian leaned in and whispered, "Let Alex handle small matters like this." He shot a displeased look at his assistant. "Didn't I give instructions that no one was to disturb our lunch today?" Person outside, getting no response, called out in a syrupy voice, "President Vance, I have something important to report to you." Alex flinched, trembling. "I'll get rid of her immediately." Arya recognized the voice as the sales manager who had stopped her earlier and couldn't help but laugh. The next second, she felt a gaze on her. It was Rhiannon. She didn't understand why the woman kept looking at her. She had dressed so seductively to flirt with Adrian, so why was she paying so much attention to her? Rhiannon found Arya fascinating. Another woman was trying to seduce her man, and she was smiling about it. Alex stepped outside and told the manager, "The president doesn't want to see you right now. Please leave." Her colleagues snickered. The manager gritted her teeth in fury. The president wouldn't see her, and it had to be Arya's fault. "I'll get you for this." After lunch, Arya finally felt a sense of relief. As she walked downstairs alone, she felt a bit dejected. Suddenly, the sales manager blocked her path, screaming, "What tricks did you pull to make the president refuse to see me, you little fox? I'm the top-performing manager in this company. Why was I fired? It must have been you." Arya couldn't be bothered and turned to leave. "It has nothing to do with me. I'm leaving." The manager, losing face, grabbed her. "Trying to run? You're not leaving until you explain yourself." The two of them started scuffling in public. Arya didn't want to be the center of attention and grew impatient, trying to break free. "No comment." The manager flew into a rage. "You're just a mistress to warm his bed and you're acting like you're the president's wife? You need to be taught a lesson. I'll teach this shameless hussy a lesson on the president's behalf." She raised her hand to slap Arya. The colleagues watched, gloating. Arya squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the impact, thinking she was done for. In the nick of time, Adrian grabbed the manager's hand. His expression was fierce, a mocking smile on his lips. "You've got a lot of nerve." The manager yelped as he forcefully flung her away, and she stumbled back several steps. Adrian sneered. I wasn't aware that the sales department's duties now include disciplining the president's women. He then pulled Arya into a protective embrace. You're just going to stand there and take it? He shot a cold glance at the manager. Who does she think she is? She's not even worthy of polishing your shoes. Adrian saw this and thought, little thing. So brave with me, but a coward in front of these nobodies. Arya stubbornly turned her head away, refusing to admit she had been scared. He started to raise his hand. Alex, ever perceptive, respectfully handed him a handkerchief. Adrian meticulously wiped his hands. The mere thought of having touched that manager disgusted him. His eyes turned ice cold, like a harbinger of death, as he announced, Inform HR, the sales manager is fired. The manager's eyes widened in horror as she saw the handkerchief fall to the floor. The employees gasped and started whispering, My God, she's actually fired. Adrian took Arya's hand. She blushed and looked at him in surprise. The president's handsome face was still cold, but his protective gesture as he led her away made her feel safe. Arya's heart fluttered. Why was it always this warm hand that pulled her to safety? Why was it always this strong back that shielded her? Why was it always him who saved her? The manager finally snapped out of her shock, crying, I'm the company's top earner. You can't fire me. She tried to block his path. Alex said sternly, If you leave quietly, you might still get your full severance. The sales manager collapsed to the floor, sobbing, unable to understand what had just happened. He was trembling inside. The president was truly furious this time. If he didn't handle this well, he might be the next one out. Back in the president's office, Arya pulled her hand away, looking uneasy. I embarrassed you back there. Adrian snorted. If it weren't for the baby, I wouldn't have bothered with such a mess. You're about to be a mother. Don't you know your mood affects the baby's development? Arya lowered her head, saddened. Of course, it's always about the baby. She was about to apologize. But seeing her sad expression, Adrian realized his words had been too harsh. He chuckled. His long fingers slowly reached out and gently touched her soft lips as she watched in surprise. The president's eyes were deep as he said suggestively, If you feel bad about it. Feeling his touch on her lips, Arya jumped, her face burning, her heart pounding. As he pulled her into a tight embrace, she felt a surge of panic and started to struggle. Don't! Arya shouted. Let me go! She pushed Adrian away and turned to run. Then she yanked open the door. It was too dangerous. She had to get out of there. In a single stride, Adrian caught up to her, slamming his hand against the door to close it. He grabbed her hand. He pressed her against the door. Then he leaned in, loosening his tie with a wicked smile. Did you think you could escape? Arya's eyes widened in terror. She clutched at her torn clothes and let out a frightened scream. Adrian moved closer, gently nibbling at her neck. Arya squeezed her eyes shut, her face crimson with embarrassment. Just as he was about to make his next move, there was a knock on the door. His expression darkened. Alex reported from outside. Urgent message from the German embassy. It requires an immediate response. Adrian reluctantly let her go. Arya breathed a sigh of relief, thinking she was finally saved. A moment later, the office door opened to a dead silence. Alex trembled, feeling he had done something terribly wrong. Adrian's eyes were dark. This useless idiot. I'm going to fire him. Arya, however, was relieved. Alex is my savior. I have to be nice to him from now on. When it was finally time to leave, Arya walked out of the company building. She heard a chorus of gasps from her colleagues. She looked over and was stunned. A luxurious convertible was parked at the entrance. Adrian was in the driver's seat, beckoning for her to get in. Asking in the envious glares of her colleagues, Arya got into the car with a sigh. The car sped off, the wind whipping through her hair. Arya was terrified. Adrian glanced at her. He immediately slowed down to a gentle 60. Arya was touched. Looking at his handsome profile, she wondered, is he concerned about me? But remembering what happened earlier, she grew anxious. What's going to happen tonight? Adrian saw the shifting expressions on her face and let out a soft laugh. Arya grew even more nervous. What is he laughing at? I'm not laughing with you. Soon they arrived home, but the house was completely empty. Adrian loosened his tie and explained, the maids this morning were temporary. The permanent staff starts tomorrow. Arya was shocked. It was just the two of them tonight? She started to panic. What should I do? Should I run? No, that won't work. I'm doomed. As her mind raced, she heard someone coming downstairs. It was Adrian, dressed in a fresh set of clothes. I have to fly to Germany tonight. You're on your own for dinner. Arya was overjoyed but managed to keep a straight face. Be careful on your way. As she watched him leave, she burst out laughing and cheering. Hearing the noise, Adrian glanced back and saw Arya waving goodbye to him. He wondered if he had imagined her laughter. Finally free, Arya let loose. She sang in the bath and blew bubbles. She rolled around on the soft, massive bed. She was ecstatic. She no longer had to worry about how to act around him. She could finally get a good night's sleep. In her dream, a little boy held her hand, happily calling her mommy, as they played in a field of flowers. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. She tried to see who it was, but she was pulled into a warm embrace. A familiar voice whispered in her ear, "Your husband, of course." Arya jolted. The man's blurry face slowly came into focus. It was Adrian. Arya cried out and woke up instantly, clutching her head in disbelief. How could she dream about him? It must have been because she was so stressed. She quickly got out of bed and opened the closet. It was filled with light, breezy dresses, not a single long-sleeved shirt in sight. She had to make do with one of Adrian's shirts. She decided to relax for the next few days. Standing on the balcony, the sun was bright, the breeze was gentle, and the birds were singing. Arya was in a great mood and started trimming the plants. Just then, a luxury car pulled up. Adrian stepped out and heard a beautiful singing voice from upstairs. He saw Arya on the balcony, wearing his shirt, happily humming as she watered the flowers. Her radiant smile stunned him. He froze for a moment. Adrian shot a cold glare in his direction. Alex immediately understood. He started the car and drove away quickly. Arya was happily singing and dancing when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned around and her eyes widened in shock. The watering can slipped from her hand. It was Adrian! Wasn't he supposed to be in Germany? Why was he here? Adrian smirked. "What are you doing dressed like that?" The watering can fell to the floor, splashing her feet. She couldn't believe her ears. What did he just say? Adrian's smile turned wicked as he stepped closer. "Dressed like that? Are you trying to seduce me?" He leaned in, his warm breath on her face, then swept her into his arms and carried her into the room. Arya struggled desperately. "What are you doing? Let me go!" But he tossed her onto the bed. She cried out, a bad feeling washing over her. Adrian's eyes burned with desire as he tore at his collar and moved closer. Arya covered her mouth, screaming in her mind, "Stop! Who's trying to seduce you? Don't you dare take off your clothes!" The next second, she saw his tie fall to the floor and froze. He was actually doing it. Did I jinx it? Adrian leaned over her, his smile devilish. "You're not getting away this time." Tears welled up in Arya's eyes as she pleaded in a panic. "No!" Her expression was a mixture of helplessness and fear. The man froze, a pang of regret hitting him. He stopped and pulled his hands back. Arya squeezed her eyes shut, hugging herself as she trembled. The next moment, her eyes flew open. A strong arm wrapped around her waist, and she was pulled into a warm embrace. Adrian held her tightly and closed his eyes. "Let me sleep for a bit." Arya touched the large hand holding her, thinking, "Even so, you don't have to hold me." Her heart pounded in her chest, her face flushing. This position was so embarrassing. But the man was already asleep, and she didn't dare move, so she drifted off to sleep beside him. The chirping of birds slowly woke Arya. She opened her eyes to find the space beside her empty. Adrian was gone. She got up, changed, and went downstairs, wondering how he could have disappeared in less than an hour. Suddenly, a chorus of voices greeted her. "Good morning, young madam!" Arya was stunned. What was going on? A capable-looking middle-aged woman stepped forward. "We were sent by the young master to take care of your daily needs. My name is Mrs. Zhang. It is now time for lunch. After you eat, I will instruct you on proper etiquette. After a 30-minute break, we will begin your tea ceremony lessons at 4 p.m., followed by dance lessons in the evening. Given your pregnancy, we will substitute dancing with piano lessons." Arya's head was spinning. The lessons were grueling. Suddenly, the phone rang. Mrs. Zhang answered it and then informed her, "The young master left a file in his study. If the young madam has a moment, he would like you to bring it to him." Arya's eyes lit up. A chance to get some fresh air. She smiled brightly. "Leave it to me." After finding the file, Arya got into the private car and headed for the company. Suddenly, two cars collided. The driver slammed on the brakes and Arya lurched forward, hitting the seat hard. The driver panicked. "Young madam, are you all right?" Arya was furious. She stormed out of the car to confront the other driver. A large patch of paint had been scraped off her car. She gasped. The repair cost for this car would be astronomical. "I'm sorry, miss. My driver is new to the area and wasn't paying attention." Arya heard the voice and turned around. It was a handsome man with eyes as clear as a lake. He was looking at her with a surprised expression. The man rushed over, grabbed her hand, and exclaimed, "Nora, you're alive!" She quickly realized what was happening. She shook his hand off. "What are you talking about?" she demanded. "Are you trying to get out of paying for the repairs?" At that, a group of bodyguards surrounded the man, addressing him as Mr. Moss. Arya grew even angrier. "What is this? Are you ganging up on me to avoid paying?" Mr. Moss waved his bodyguards away, and they respectfully stepped back. He suddenly laughed and patted her head affectionately. "Don't worry, I won't run from my responsibilities. I'll buy you a brand new Mercedes." Arya smacked his hand away. "I don't want a new car, just pay for the repairs." Mr. Moss burst out laughing, tears forming in his eyes. This woman was hilarious. He took out a business card and handed it to her. It read, Caden Moss, along with his phone number. Arya thought he looked tall and imposing, but somehow not from around here. Caden was friendly, still asking, "May I know your name? Do you have a twin sister?" Arya grew wary. Why was he asking so many questions after agreeing to pay? "Just give the money to my driver," she said, turning to leave. "I've got your card, so you can't get out of paying for this." She got back in the car and urged the driver to hurry. If she was late delivering Adrian's file, she would be in big trouble. Caden watched her car drive away and told his men to run the license plate. "Don't you think she looks a lot like Nora?" A bodyguard replied. "Physically, she looks identical to Miss Nora, but her demeanor is completely different." Caden's expression turned melancholic. "Similar, yet not. My Nora was never this healthy," he murmured, then turned to leave, resolute. "No matter who that woman is, I will find out." What a day. She'd been rear-ended and the file was almost late. She thought about how Adrian had handed her a credit card and said with a smile, "You were just in time. You can go shopping today, spend as much as you want." His habit of throwing money at people annoyed her. Since she was out, she decided to go cancel the lease on her old apartment. On the way, she noticed a group of women fighting on the sidewalk. Looking closer, she saw that the woman being ganged up on was Rhiannon. Arya was shocked and told the driver to pull over. She got out to help. Just then, one of the women picked up a brick and was about to smash it into the back of Rhiannon's head. "Oh," Arya cried out. She rushed forward, pulling Rhiannon out of the way as they ran. Rhiannon was stunned. It was her. But she was wearing high heels and couldn't run. Arya shoved her into the car and yelled at the driver, "Go!" The women were left far behind, still screaming, "You damn homewrecker, run if you've got the guts!" As Arya caught her breath, Rhiannon asked, "Why did you save me?" She smiled. "We're from partner companies, so we're sort of acquaintances." Rhiannon was speechless at her blunt honesty. When Arya asked if she was okay, she casually flipped her hair. "I'll live. This kind of thing happens all the time." But she had been genuinely scared and was grateful to be saved. They soon arrived at the apartment building, and Arya invited her inside. Rhiannon was surprised. "You live here?" It was small, but neatly kept. Arya quickly clarified, "I used to," before Rhiannon could ask. "And now?" She figured it out. "Say no more. I get it." Arya handed her a glass of water and changed the subject. "Why were those women attacking you on the street?" Rhiannon explained with a sigh. "The one with the brick. Her husband is one of my clients. The guy saw me and declared he was in love. I turned him down, but he wouldn't stop pestering me. He even told his wife he was going to divorce her and marry me, so his wife came after me." She sighed again. Arya gave an awkward laugh. She couldn't believe something so dramatic could happen. Rhiannon reassured her, "Don't get the wrong idea. I didn't lead him on. He was the one chasing me." She touched her face narcissistically. "It's hard being this beautiful. I've never had to chase a man in my life, can you believe it?" Arya laughed dryly, struck by the difference between them. Rhiannon was beautiful, with a great figure. She didn't have to do anything, and men would fall all over her. In her entire life, aside from that scumbag Leo, no one had ever pursued her. She felt a pang of sadness. With her flat chest, what man would ever be interested? She wondered if Adrian had been attracted to Rhiannon when he first met her. The president's handsome face popped into her mind. Arya gasped. Why was she suddenly thinking about him? She and Adrian were just in a contract marriage. She couldn't have feelings for him. Rhiannon jumped. "What's with the sudden reaction?" Arya shot up from her seat. "Ms. Rhiannon, I believe you!" Her sudden outburst made Rhiannon curious. "So, what's the deal with you and Adrian Vance? I've never seen him care so much about a woman." Arya's expression turned somber. "It's nothing." The memory of that mistaken, humiliating night flooded her mind. Rhiannon didn't press. "Thanks for today. I owe you one." She picked up her bag to leave, but before she went out the door, she offered a piece of advice. "If you and Adrian are only together for some kind of business arrangement, you should probably have an exit strategy. You don't want to be sold and still be counting the money for him." The words hit Arya like a wake-up call. Maybe she shouldn't give up this apartment after all. When she got home that evening, Adrian was already back waiting for her. "Where have you been?" Arya felt a twinge of guilt, her eyes darting around. "I was just out for a walk." Under the president's intense gaze, she grew nervous. Her heart began to race. After a moment of silence, Adrian turned and walked away. Arya sighed in relief, annoyed. He came back just to interrogate her? President suddenly turned back. "There's a party tonight. You're coming with me. Don't embarrass me." Arya was stunned. Who am I? Where am I? What am I supposed to do? I haven't even learned proper etiquette yet. How am I supposed to make you look good? For the evening's party, the maids helped Arya into a snow-white gown. To their surprise, she was so slim that even the smallest size of the latest collection was a bit loose on her. A maid was about to make an alteration. She realized she had left her sewing kit downstairs. She asked the young madam to hold the back of the dress while she went to get it. But Arya found it difficult. Her pregnancy was making her a bit clumsy. Just then, a hand reached out and held the dress in place, saving her from a wardrobe malfunction. Arya turned and saw it was Adrian. She blushed and stammered her thanks. The president chuckled. "You clumsy thing, you didn't even notice your hair was caught in the dress." He casually lifted a strand of her hair to tuck it behind her ear, but it was so smooth and silky that it slipped through his fingers several times. Feeling his constant touch, Arya's face turned beet red. What was he trying to do? Seeing her blush like an apple, the president couldn't resist leaning in. He wanted to take a bite. Arya gasped, her face burning, and tried to fix it herself. As she struggled, his hand slipped. The dress slid down, revealing her fair skin and slender waist. Arya froze, her heart pounding. This feeling was so strange. The man leaned in, whispering in her ear, "We're not at the office. You can call me by my name." Arya's blush deepened to her neck, and she said irritably, "Adrian, what are you trying to do?" Just then, the maid returned. "I'm sorry, it took me a while to find the needle and thread." All three of them froze. The room was plunged into a dead silence. Adrian, seeing Arya's downcast face, worried he had scared her, he went downstairs to wait. A few moments later, Arya came down, fully dressed. "Sorry to keep you waiting, I'm ready." She was breathtaking. The beautiful gown, expensive jewelry, and exquisite makeup transformed her. Adrian couldn't take his eyes off her, stunned by how beautiful she looked when she was all dressed up. Being stared at like that made Arya blush. It was so awkward. "Someone, anyone, please break this tension." As if hearing her thoughts, Mrs. Zhang appeared. "Young master, it's time to leave." Adrian offered his arm. Arya took it, a strange feeling fluttering inside her. The two of them, looking like a fairy tale couple, entered the grand ballroom. Seeing so many prominent figures from the business world, Arya felt incredibly nervous. Adrian comforted her. "Relax, no one will notice you." A young man greeted them enthusiastically. "President Vance, we've been waiting for you." Seeing Arya, he was surprised. "This is the first time you've brought a date to one of these events." Instantly, all eyes were on them. Arya felt a mountain of pressure and grumbled internally. "You said no one would be looking at me." Adrian chuckled and introduced her. "This is my companion, Arya." Seeing how beautiful she was, the young man blushed. "I'm Jackson." Adrian, slightly displeased, quickly changed the subject. "I hear the guest of honor tonight is quite the business prodigy." Jackson explained, "Everyone else is outside welcoming him. Rumor has it he's a genius on par with you, President Vance. If he sets up shop in this city, you'll have a serious competitor. I hear he's backed by 2 major families." Adrian swirled the red wine in his glass. "Interesting. It's been a while since I've had a worthy opponent." He chuckled. "Now I'm even more intrigued to meet this legendary rival." Arya didn't understand the competitive nature of businessmen. Right now, she just felt terrified. All the socialites at the party were staring at her with murderous intent. She swallowed hard, thinking, "I have no intention of stealing Adrian Vance from you. If you like him, go for it." Adrian quickly noticed her distress. "I'm going to greet the host. You can stay here and eat." "Okay." Arya nodded eagerly, relieved that he had noticed her discomfort. Eating was always a good thing. Adrian was about to say something else, but she was already gone, having disappeared into the crowd. He could only call after her, "Remember, don't eat too much junk food and no alcohol." Jackson was stunned by this down-to-earth display. Was this the same President Vance he knew? The banquet was filled with delicious food. Arya marveled at the selection, wanting to try a bite of everything. It was so much better than a buffet. But when she saw a scene across the room, she froze. Adrian was effortlessly mingling with the crowd, the center of attention, with countless socialites vying for his favor. As expected, he was adored wherever he went. Suddenly, Arya felt full. She couldn't believe she had finished an entire plate of food. She decided to sneak outside for a walk to digest. The moon was bright, fireworks lit up the sky, and a gentle breeze cooled her down. She felt much better. Strolling down a small path, she saw a beautiful flower on a tree. She wanted to pick it to plant in her garden, but even on her tiptoes, she couldn't quite reach it. Just then, a tall figure appeared behind her and easily plucked the flower. Arya turned to see a handsome man and politely thanked him. The man handed her the flower and said with a familiar tone, "You don't remember me?" Arya was taken aback, looking at him blankly. "Do we know each other?" The man looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. "No way! You forgot me that fast? We met this morning. My car rear-ended yours." "I gave you my card. I'm Caden Moss." Arya's eyes lit up. "Oh, it's you. Did you come all the way here to pay me back?" Caden laughed. "You're adorable." Arya just found him strange. The man persisted. "You still haven't told me your name. May I have the honor of knowing it?" Arya hesitated. This man was too strange. Should she tell him? Just then her phone rang, saved by the bell. She quickly answered. It was Adrian. She needed to get back or he would be angry. Arya seized the opportunity. I'm sorry, I have to go. She turned and hurried away, but after a few steps, she stopped. She called back. Don't forget to pay for the repairs. That car is very expensive. Caden was stunned. This girl was truly special. I will find out your name. We'll meet again. Whether you're connected to Nora or not, I'll make sure you remember me. After the party, Adrian drove them home. He hadn't expected to be out so late. Arya was fast asleep in the passenger seat. He worried she might feel sick after eating so much. Adrian immediately pulled over, took off his jacket, and draped it over her. He couldn't let her catch a cold. His fingers accidentally brushed against her lips, and he froze. They were so soft. He hesitated for a moment, then gently touched her lips again. Seeing that she hadn't woken up, he grew bolder and gently squeezed them. She was sleeping like a log. Finally, he couldn't resist and leaned in for a deep kiss. He was about to go in for another when Arya, struggling for breath, slowly woke up. She opened her eyes to see that the car was parked. Adrian was beside her, his face flushed and beaded with sweat. Arya was surprised and asked with concern, "Why is your face so red? Did you drink too much?" Adrian, embarrassed and flustered, snapped, "No, you're seeing things." He immediately started the car and sped off. Arya screamed, "I'm pregnant! Are you trying to scare me? You're speeding." But Adrian couldn't calm down. After a terrifying ride, they finally made it home. The moment he parked, Adrian jumped out of the car, not even waiting for the pregnant woman behind him. Arya grumbled, "What's his rush?" Then she noticed the jacket draped over her. It was his. How did it get there? Looking at his retreating back, she realized he had pulled over to cover her with his jacket. Meanwhile, Adrian clutched his burning face, mortified by his own actions. Arya thought he was actually quite thoughtful. If we weren't in a contract marriage, maybe things would be different. The thought brought a smile to her face, and she said sweetly, "Thank you, Adrian." The president froze. "What did you just say?" Arya pushed him toward the house. "I didn't say anything. Let's go home. I'm tired." A few days later, Adrian came home from work and, as he opened the door, heard Arya's voice loudly practicing Korean. "I like you." The surprise was so sudden and unexpected that he froze, his heart pounding in his chest. But the next second, she stumbled through more Korean phrases, her pronunciation clumsy. Adrian gritted his teeth. This little mole. Does she even know what that means? He decided to test her. "How do you say I love you in Korean?" Arya immediately replied, "Sarangheo." The president's heart beat even faster. So she did know. Was she saying it on purpose? Arya finally looked up from her book. Adrian instantly wiped the smile off his face, reverting to his cool, aloof president persona. When did he get back? Arya quickly hid her Korean textbook, embarrassed. Adrian asked expectantly, "Why were you practicing that phrase?" Arya looked bashful. "I don't know. The etiquette teacher taught it to me, so I was just repeating it." Adrian's face instantly turned to ice. He turned and walked away without another word. Arya was completely baffled. Why was he angry again? Did she say something wrong? The two of them ate without a word, the atmosphere incredibly awkward. Looking at Adrian's cold expression, Arya chewed on her chopsticks, troubled. They still had to welcome the Korean chairman and his wife together. If they kept up this Cold War, how would they manage? She picked up a piece of meat and placed it in his bowl, a small peace offering. The great president finally spoke. "That eager look on your face, is there something you want to ask me?" Arya nodded enthusiastically. Seeing her expectant gaze, Adrian sighed. "Just say what's on your mind." "Grandma said the Korean chairman and his wife are visiting this weekend. I really don't have a talent for learning Korean." Adrian remained outwardly calm, but internally he was screaming, "Ask me to teach you. I'm much better than that etiquette teacher." But Arya, with an innocent look, asked, "When the chairman and his wife arrive, can I just smile and not say anything?" Adrian's face fell in disappointment. His head throbbed, and losing his patience, he slammed his hand on the table. Arya jumped, her eyes wide. "Did I say something wrong again?" The president had lost his appetite. He put down his chopsticks and stood up. Arya was confused. He seemed fine just a moment ago. Adrian stormed off, gritting his teeth. That clumsy little mole. Arya was on the verge of tears. Why was he so moody? What did she have to do to keep him from getting angry? Mrs. Zhang wiped away a tear. The young master didn't eat much at lunch either. How can his body take it? Remembering how Adrian had thoughtfully covered her with his jacket, Arya stood up decisively. "He can't skip meals, Mrs. Zhang, get me a plate, I'll take some food to him." In the study, Adrian was buried in his work. A knock came at the door, and Arya entered with a plate of food, smiling sweetly. "I heard you haven't eaten all day, so I brought you something." Adrian, still sulking, ignored her and continued to focus on his work. Being ignored again, Arya felt awkward, her smile freezing on her face. He was clearly still mad. She set the food aside, deciding she could reheat it when he was ready to eat. While she waited, she took out her Korean textbook to practice. But she truly had no talent for it and could only manage a garbled mess, aside from a perfect serengheo. Hearing that phrase, Adrian's ears perked up, waiting to hear what she would say next. But Arya just stared at her book, stammering, unable to form a complete sentence. Adrian grew impatient. He strode over and snatched the book from her hands. "Taught you this pronunciation. You're embarrassing me. Repeat after me." He began correcting her pronunciation. Arya was stunned. Was he really going to teach her Korean? But it was too late to cram now. Wouldn't it have been easier to just let her stay silent? This was so unnecessary. Adrian didn't understand her expression, but being stared at by her put him in a much better mood. He sat down right next to her. "Now, I'll teach you some common phrases." Shouldn't he be using a chalkboard or something? Why is he sitting so close? Arya's heart pounded so hard she thought she might scream. "What's wrong?" Adrian glanced at her. Her shy, blushing face pleased him, and a smile crept onto his lips. He deliberately leaned in closer, his voice magnetic. "Repeat after me." He specifically chose the phrase "I love you" and whispered it in her ear, his tone almost a confession. His voice was so intoxicating. Arya was completely mesmerized. Adrian saw this and smiled triumphantly. After hours of intense instruction, Arya still couldn't make sense of the strange characters in the book. The president, barely suppressing his frustration, grabbed her hand. "Can't you pay attention? I've never met anyone so slow. This phrase clearly means..." With his handsome face so close, Arya's heart raced. The sound of her own heartbeat was so loud, and with them sitting so close, she was terrified he would hear it. Arya quickly pulled her hand back. Her face flushed as she stood up. I guess I'm pretty slow. Maybe I should just memorize it on my own." Fighting the urge to flee, she hurried out of the room. Adrian was left stunned, not understanding what had just happened. He stared at the closed door, lost in thought. Outside the study, Arya ran as fast as she could. She was developing feelings for him. Hadn't she given up on love? How could she have feelings for a man who had essentially bought her? But she couldn't control her burning cheeks or her racing heart. Arya threw herself onto the soft bed, frustrated with herself. She closed her eyes. She needed to rest. In the middle of the night, Adrian quietly entered the room, he unbuttoning his shirt as he walked. Hearing the noise, Arya groggily opened her eyes. A set of well-defined abs came into view. She sat up, startled. What are you doing?" Adrian pulled his shirt open, revealing his perfectly sculpted physique. Arya's eyes widened and she stared, dumbfounded. What is he doing? Her appreciative gaze pleased him. He placed one hand on the bed and leaned over her, slowly getting closer. What's wrong? Seeing such a perfect body up close, Arya's face turned beet red. She was speechless, her eyes darting around nervously, her heart pounding. Adrian leaned in, his voice a low whisper. "Give me your hand." The man took her small hand and with a wicked grin guided it over his abs. "They're so firm." The words slipped out before Arya could stop them. Seeing her completely captivated, her face flushed and her mind elsewhere, Adrian finally smiled. Satisfied, he stood up, put his hands in his pockets, and hummed a little tune as he walked toward the closet. Arya stared after him, completely bewildered by the sudden turn of events. As he walked, Adrian unbuttoned and took off his shirt. He tossed it aside before changing into a new outfit. Arya was surprised. "Are you going out?" Adrian, now looking dapper and composed, told her. "I have a party to attend." Arya sighed, a mix of relief and disappointment washing over her. The president glanced over at her. "Do you want to come with me?" Arya jolted, realizing he had misinterpreted her sigh. She quickly waved her hands. No, I should get some rest. You go have fun." Adrian fastened his watch, looking incredibly handsome, told her to get some sleep, and left. Arya sat in the empty room for a long time. Then she couldn't resist getting out of bed to peek through the curtains. Getting all dressed up to go out this late. But she was also a little worried. Be careful. Don't work too hard. As people worked on her hair and nails simultaneously, Arya asked, "Can we skip the manicure? The young madam's nails are designed to match today's jewelry. This beautiful Heart of the Ocean set was won by the president at an auction for you last night. You are so lucky." Arya felt a bit embarrassed but feigned indifference. "It's such a hassle. Who cares?" Adrian grew impatient. "We're out of time. We'll finish in the car on the way." At his command, the stylists lifted Arya and rushed her into the limo, ignoring her protests. In the car, surrounded by the styling team, Arya whispered, "Can we not do this? I'm not used to it." Adrian's expression was cold. "Do you think it's respectful to the chairman and his wife to be dressed so casually?" But the next second, he saw the tears welling up in Arya's eyes, her adorably pitiful expression. He blushed, quickly looking away and clearing his throat to hide his embarrassment. The stylist's jaws dropped. The famously cold and domineering president was blushing. Adrian, flustered and angry, glared at them. "All of you, get out!" With the extra people gone, Arya finally breathed a sigh of relief. She was in a much better mood and started humming as she took off the expensive bracelet. She expertly wove her hair into a braid that complemented her simple dress, giving her a pure and lovely look. Then she noticed a pair of matching couples' watches. They were quite nice, so she picked up the women's watch to put it on. But she couldn't fasten the clasp, and she pouted in frustration. Adrian watching her. He pulled her into his arms. He gently helped her put on the watch. Then he held out his wrist, gesturing for her to put the matching men's watch on him. He then took her hand and snapped a picture of their matching watches. "From now on, we have to act like a loving couple. Don't mess this up," Adrian said, tapping on his tablet. "This is a multi-billion-dollar contract. If you ruin it, you know the consequences." He then, contradicting his business-like tone, immediately posted the photo to his social media. The comments section exploded. Alex enviously wrote, "So happy for you," while a fan of the president voiced her disapproval. Rhiannon bluntly shut her down. "They're a perfect match. What business is it of yours, you monster?" Isabelle seethed, typing, "Adrian Vance, you will regret this." Arya didn't see any of this. Her expression fell. The next second, Arya gasped. "Why are we meeting the chairman and his wife here?" It was her first time at a skyport, a massive skyscraper with a landing pad hundreds of floors up. Poverty truly limits the imagination. Adrian wrapped an arm around her. "You're so small, the wind might blow you away." Seeing her dazed expression, he smirked. "You might want to wipe your mouth. You're drooling." Arya's eyes widened. She blushed and wiped her mouth only to find nothing there. She clenched her fists in frustration. "He tricked me." Adrian burst out laughing. Just then, Alex reported, "The chairman and his wife's plane will be landing in 5 minutes." Adrian took Arya's hand. Seeing her dazed look, he knew something was wrong. His little wildcat was getting nervous again. The plane landed, and the Korean chairman and his wife disembarked. Adrian smiled and walked forward, warmly greeting them in Korean. The chairman's wife smiled. "President Vance, you're even more handsome in person." She then turned to Arya and gave her a warm hug. "And Mrs. Vance is so beautiful. You're a lucky man." Arya smiled awkwardly, unable to understand a word they were saying. Adrian wrapped an arm around Arya, smoothly explaining, "This is my wife. Her Korean isn't very good. Please forgive her." Arya added awkwardly in her broken, accented Korean, "Sorry, I only study Korean 3-day." The chairman's wife took her hand. "It's all right, I know a little Chinese, I can teach you." Arya was overjoyed. She finally breathed a sigh of relief. The chairman, who had been silent until now, had sharp eyes. He noticed the matching couple's watches on their wrists. He smiled with satisfaction. This couple seemed very much in love. "Good." Adrian suggested, "Let's not stand here talking. We can go down and rest." The chairman and his wife held hands, the picture of a loving couple. The president glanced at Arya and raised his eyebrows, a clear hint in his eyes. "We should go down too." But the woman just nodded blankly, not understanding his meaning. Adrian took the initiative and laced his fingers with hers, leading her forward. Arya blushed, her heart fluttering. She told herself she had to play the role of Mrs. Vance well, but she also had to stay clear-headed. Looking at the broad, strong back in front of her, she reminded herself again, this is all just an act. Back at the company, watching everyone chat and laugh, Arya felt like time was crawling. But they seemed to be having a good time, and her part in this was almost over. She sat quietly to the side, maintaining a graceful posture. The chairman's wife noticed her silence and switched to Chinese. "Mrs. Vance, what do you do for fun?" When she was working, she was busy from dawn till dusk. She barely had time to breathe, let alone have fun. Despite her internal complaints, she answered sweetly, "I like to cook in my spare time. I find it very enjoyable, especially when I'm cooking for someone I love. It makes me feel very happy." Adrian shot her a quick, satisfied glance. This woman was getting better at acting. The chairman's wife smiled graciously. "Then President Vance must love your cooking." The president answered without hesitation, "I love it. Arya is an amazing cook." Arya grumbled silently. "He eats it every time, but he's always so critical of my cooking." To her surprise, Adrian then said, "Since the chairman and his wife are visiting, it's only right that Arya cook a meal for you." Arya's jaw dropped. What was he talking about? When did she ever say that? The president pulled her into his arms and whispered, "I just got word that the chairman's wife loves hot pot. The butler has already prepared the ingredients. And Grandma said if you do well this time, she'll let you go home for a visit." Arya's eyes lit up. She looked at him expectantly and whispered back, "Do you promise?" Adrian nodded. "Just remember to make the act convincing." He then leaned in and kissed her cheek. "I'm counting on you, my dear." Arya's face turned beet red. What was with him, suddenly kissing her like that? But she had to maintain her smile, leaning into his embrace and nodding obediently. "Don't worry, you can count on me." Once they were out of the room, Arya vigorously rubbed her cheek, complaining, "That jerk totally took advantage of me." Alex suddenly appeared to lead the way. "The restaurant is on the 33rd floor. This way, please." For the next few days, team leader, you and the president will be accompanying the chairman and his wife. If you can build a good relationship with them, the contract is as good as signed. But if they find out you're in a contract marriage, it could all be ruined. At his words, Arya stopped in her tracks. The air was thick with silence. Alex started to tremble. Did I say something I shouldn't have? I'm so fired. Arya clenched her jaw and with her head down walked past him. I know what to do. Tell Adrian I won't mess things up for him. This was part of our contract after all. She touched the spot where he had kissed her, her expression somber. And here I was, taking that kiss seriously. What a fool. The elevator arrived at the 33rd floor. As the doors opened, a line of bodyguards in sunglasses shouted in unison, "Welcome, team leader! The kitchen is this way!" Dozens of top chefs stood in a line to greet her, smiling. "Welcome, Madam President?" Arya's smile was a bit stiff. She would have to get used to this. The head chef stepped forward. "The soup base is nearly ready. You just need to prepare the side dishes." Arya composed herself, telling herself to just do her job and not think about anything else. But she couldn't help but marvel at the magnificent kitchen. A large pot of bone broth was simmering on the stove, filling the air with a rich aroma. The head chef explained that the broth had been simmering since that morning. Arya was surprised. Adrian had really gone all out for the Korean guests. She had to do her part. Instantly filled with energy, Arya began to focus, skillfully slicing mushrooms with practiced ease. Just then, the head chef noticed the president had entered the kitchen. He was about to greet him when Adrian put a finger to his lips, signaling for silence. With Adrian gone, Arya was relaxed, occasionally trying out small new dishes as she worked. Seeing her happily chopping vegetables, the president quietly approached from behind and wrapped his arms around her. The familiar masculine scent enveloped her. Without even looking, she knew it was Adrian. The hand holding the knife trembled. Arya's face flushed. "What are you doing here? This is a restaurant. There are so many people." Adrian nuzzled his face against hers. "I came to see how my wife is doing." Arya froze, her face turning crimson, screaming in her mind, "What are you doing?" Adrian let her struggle for a moment, a faint smile playing on his lips. The chairman and his wife, who had followed him, saw the affectionate scene and were very pleased. President Vance truly loves his wife. Arya was still trying to pull away when Adrian whispered, "The chairman and his wife are watching." She glanced over and saw that they were indeed watching. She immediately stopped moving. Seeing her blushing and shy, Adrian's gaze deepened, a flicker of emotion in his eyes. This little mole, so obedient. Soon the hot pot was ready, and Arya invited the chairman and his wife to eat. The chairman's wife was very fond of her, praising her. "Mrs. Vance, you're so talented. President Vance is a lucky man. With a wife who loves to cook, you must be eager to come home every day." Arya felt a pang of nervousness, wondering why she was so anxious to hear his answer. Adrian immediately reached out and covered her hand with his. "The best part of my day is having dinner with Arya." His smile and gaze were incredibly gentle, radiating the joy and happiness of a devoted husband. The woman stared at him, momentarily lost in his handsome profile. For a split second, she had the illusion that they were a real married couple. Adrian noticed her dazed expression and asked with concern, "My dear, are you all right?" She snapped back to reality, touched by his constant attention, and smiled. "I'm fine." Seeing her familiar smile, the president relaxed, his expression growing even more tender. The chairman and his wife observed the exchange, whispering to each other, "They're just like we were when we were young." The four of them finished their meal in a cheerful atmosphere. The chairman and his wife exchanged a satisfied look, and he then asked his assistant to bring the contract, planning to sign it right there at the dinner table. Arya breathed a sigh of relief. At least she hadn't held him back. The assistant brought a file. "This is the contract with the Vance Corporation." Adrian looked at the long-awaited contract and couldn't help but smile. As he reached for it, a discordant voice cut through the air from the doorway. "Adrian, how could you do this to me?" The smiles on Adrian's and Arya's faces froze. Who would dare cause trouble at such a critical moment? All four of them looked toward the entrance to see a woman in a janitor's uniform slowly approaching. She took off her hat, revealing her face. "I'm the one who should be your wife, aren't I?" It was Isabelle. Her face was contorted with resentment as she demanded, "Why did you marry my best friend?" The chairman and his wife were stunned by the sudden turn of events and asked what was going on. Adrian's face darkened, his eyes fixed on the woman who had ruined everything. He had never imagined that Bella would find a way to sneak into the Vance Corporation and appear at such a crucial time. He quickly stood up to explain, "This is just a misunderstanding." But he was cut off. Isabelle rushed forward, clinging to him intimately. "A misunderstanding about what?" Adrian shoved her away and told Arya to escort the chairman and his wife out. Arya quickly stood up and apologized. "Please come with me. I promise we will give you a proper explanation." The chairman frowned. "I hope Mrs. Vance's explanation will be convincing." Isabelle gritted her teeth. She's really acting like the president's wife? How dare she? Just as Arya was about to lead the distinguished guests away, a sharp slap landed on her face. Caught off guard, she stumbled, nearly falling to the ground. Isabelle pointed at her, screaming, "Arya, you're shameless! I thought you were my best friend, but you stole my man." She grabbed Arya's wrist, ready to attack again. Arya was stunned by the sudden slap, unable to react. In the nick of time, Adrian appeared like a god of war, stepping in front of Arya and grabbing Isabelle's arm. "Haven't you had enough?" Isabelle was shocked. Adrian had never looked at her with such ferocity. Tears welled up in her eyes as she cried, "You can't do this to me. I should be your bride." Adrian squeezed his eyes shut, trying to contain his rage. His patience was wearing thin. Seeing that he was unmoved, Isabelle burst into tears. "How could you marry my best friend?" Adrian glanced at Arya beside him. Her hurt expression pierced his heart. He closed his eyes, suppressing the urge to explode. "Isabelle, I'm warning you one last time. That's enough." But Isabelle, feeling confident he wouldn't do anything to her, continued to sob. She murmured, "I'm sorry, don't be mad at me." Adrian coldly instructed Alex, "Escort the chairman and his wife out." The chairman's face was grim. "I hope you can provide a satisfactory explanation, President Vance. We will not do business with a man who abandons his responsibilities." With that, he angrily led his wife away, taking the contract with them. His wife glanced back. She had a feeling that this girl with the clean smile and clear eyes was not the type to do such a thing. Seeing Arya holding her swollen cheek, looking utterly betrayed but holding back her tears, she felt a pang of pity. But she couldn't interfere in their personal affairs and sighed helplessly. With the chairman and his wife gone, only the three of them remained. Adrian didn't even look at Isabelle, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "What? Milan wasn't appealing enough? You decided to come back?" Isabelle's face was a mask of devotion. "I'm not going to Milan. I'm not going to be a model. I want to marry you and have your children. Arya was just a gift I sent you." "How could you marry a gift and ignore the person who gave it to you? I'm back now. The gift can be returned." Arya's disbelieving gaze shot to Isabelle. A gift? What was she talking about? Arya was in a daze, a terrible premonition washing over her. Isabelle seethed internally. "What's with that look?" She pressed herself against Adrian, feigning sincerity. "I really do love you." "And then?" Arya asked, her face pale, as if she were about to uncover a horrifying truth. Isabelle continued her performance. "And then I gave you my best friend's virginity. You can't do this to me. She's just a gift. I'm your girlfriend." Adrian turned his head. He saw Arya's face streaked with tears, her expression completely broken. "So that night, you really did set me up." Adrian felt his heart clench. He had never seen his little wildcat look so devastated. He gritted his teeth, losing his composure for the first time. "Damn it, how did it come to this?" Isabelle cried out desperately. "Look at me. Divorce this gift. We can get married and have children, as many as you want." Arya's face darkened. She walked up to Isabelle and demanded, "Why would you do this? Haven't we been best friends since we were children, supporting each other through everything? Why would you destroy it all? Why would you set me up?" Isabelle sneered. "Stop acting so innocent, it's disgusting." Her eyes landed on the heart of the ocean necklace around Arya's neck, something she had always coveted. How could it be on Arya? In the next moment, she shrieked, "For all these years I've been sick of you looking at me with pity. Just because you were a virgin, you thought you were so high and mighty? But what does that matter now? You still have nothing." Arya trembled. "I was sorry about what happened back then, but I never looked at you with pity. I always thought of you as my best friend, someone I could share everything with. I thought the whole world could abandon me, but you never would." Adrian watched the fragile woman, a sharp pain stabbing at his heart with each word. Since it had all come out today, it was time to clear the air completely. Isabelle's face was full of contempt. "Just stop! It's nauseating! A woman like you is destined to be abandoned by everyone. You were thrown away by your birth parents the moment you were born. Even when you were taken in, you were still despised by your family. Leo claimed to love you so much, but didn't he leave you for money? And there will be more people who will abandon you." Isabelle's voice rose to a frantic scream. "Because you are just that unlikable." Adrian watched his little wildcat, his gaze never leaving her, a worried frown on his face. Her best friend's words were like daggers piercing her heart. Arya swayed, grabbing onto a table to keep from falling. Adrian moved to support her, but he didn't know what to say. After all, he was a part of that mistaken night. Arya dodged his touch, her head bowed. She shakily pushed herself up and staggered away, unwilling to look at either of them again. All she wanted was to escape. But Isabelle wasn't finished, screaming insults at her back. Adrian clenched his fists, his heart aching. He spun around, his voice a furious roar. "Isabelle, that's enough!" Seeing him about to chase after Arya, she threw herself at his feet. clinging to his legs and begging, "Don't do this to me. I know I was wrong." Adrian looked down at her face, only now realizing how repulsive she was. Isabelle was still crying. "Arya doesn't love you. We're the ones with a history. Let's get married." Adrian's eyes were filled with a murderous rage, like a demon from the underworld. He snarled. Isabelle froze, her act momentarily forgotten. The man's voice was cold and distant. "The moment you sent Arya to my bed, we were over. I, Adrian Vance, am not someone a woman like you can manipulate." He kicked her away, his voice filled with disgust. "Get lost!" He turned to chase after Arya, but Isabelle shrieked, "Adrian Vance, don't force my hand!" He stopped, a contemptuous sneer on his face. "Oh, and what can you do?" Isabelle's shrill voice echoed through the large dining room. "The Vance Corporation values its partnership with the Korean company, doesn't it? The chairman and his wife saw everything that just happened. If I don't go and explain things, that partnership might just fall through." Adrian's smile was scornful. So that was her plan. How presumptuous. Isabelle threatened, "If I don't clear things up, then Arya will forever be the shameless woman who seduced her best friend's husband. Will the chairman still want to work with you then?" The frost in the president's eyes reached its limit. "Are you threatening me?" Isabelle wrapped her arms around him from behind, rubbing against him. "I'm only doing this because I love you so much." She greedily inhaled his familiar scent, thinking, "This is the man I want." Adrian scoffed. "So this is how you love me? How pathetic." He spun around and shoved her away. "Unfortunately for you, I'm not interested." He then strode away, ignoring the woman behind him. She called out desperately and tried to follow, but 2 bodyguards blocked her path. "Miss Isabelle, please stay here. If you resist, we will have to use force. As you infiltrated the company, we can treat you as a corporate spy." Outside, Adrian turned to Alex. "Did you record all of that?" "Yes, Mr. President, it's all here." Alex respectfully handed him a phone. Adrian tossed the phone in his hand, a cruel smile on his lips. "Good." Alex, ever perceptive, reported, "Mr. President, the young madam is in the restroom." Adrian's smile vanished, his expression instantly turning grim. He turned and walked away without a word. In the small confines of the restroom, Arya was curled up in a corner. Her tears flowed freely. So her dignity was nothing more than a cheap, worthless gift. The word echoed in her mind, and her world turned to darkness. Suddenly, a loud crash and a familiar voice calling her name pulled her out of the darkness. Adrian was frantically banging on the stall door. "Arya, get out here." The girl sat in a daze, not responding. She hugged herself tighter. "So you all knew. I was the only fool who still believed there was good in the world." The loud banging on the door attracted a crowd of curious onlookers from around the company. Adrian knew Arya was inside. He knew that when someone was truly devastated, their tears were often silent. Damn it. Why did the thought of her like this make his heart ache? He found himself hesitating to kick the door down, worried he might hurt her, and decided to wait. The man leaned against the stall door, his head bowed, and forced out the words, "I'm sorry." The employees couldn't believe it. There was only silence from inside. Arya didn't respond. Adrian's patience finally ran out. "Have you had enough of this?" he roared. He twisted the lock until it broke and threw the door open. The moment he saw inside, his eyes widened and the rest of his words died in his throat. The sound of the broken handle hitting the floor startled them both. Arya was curled up in a corner, her face stained with tears, her expression one of utter despair. Adrian's anger vanished instantly. "Little wildcat," he whispered. After ordering Alex to clear the area, he stepped into the stall, blocking the curious gazes from outside. He held out his hand. "Arya, come here." The woman looked at his hand in a daze. Where is here? He was handsome and noble, standing in the light, as if from a different world. Arya's expression fell. She lowered her head and bit her lip. Where else could she go? The next second, a large, slender hand grabbed hers, pulling her out of the abyss of despair and into a warm embrace. The man whispered gently in her ear, "No one will ever abandon you again. If you're going to cry, cry here. Don't hide in there." Arya listened to his soft, comforting words, and all her pain and betrayal came flooding back. The world was so big, yet there wasn't a single shoulder for her to cry on. She clutched his shirt, the dam of her emotions finally breaking, and sobbed uncontrollably. "Adrian Vance, I'll just borrow your shoulder for today. I'll never cry like this in front of you again. I'll be quiet, I'll be good, right up until our contract ends." After letting it all out, Arya finally came back to her senses. She pushed away from his warm embrace, wiping her tears. "I'm sorry I got your shirt dirty." Adrian looked away, a little uncomfortable. "It's fine, you can just wash it." His unexpected response made Arya's eyes widen. "Should I thank you for not making me buy you a new one?" Seeing that she was in the mood to joke, Adrian felt a sense of relief and teased back. "It's a $20,000 shirt. I'm not sure you could afford to replace it." Arya was stunned into silence by the exorbitant price. The man, relieved that she had stopped crying, took her hand and started to lead her home. Arya, her eyes still red, thought this was the only warmth she had received all day. They walked side by side, heading toward the bright light ahead. Alex watched them go, silently admiring his boss. Not long after they got home, Adrian changed into a new set of clothes and left. The butler explained gently, "The young master has gone to explain today's events to the Korean chairman." Arya stared in the direction he had left, a strange new feeling stirring in her heart. The butler smiled. The chairwoman found out what happened and called to give the president a piece of her mind. "Look at what that Isabelle of yours did. It's karma. If you don't clear this up, not even I can save your position as president. Fix this and then think about what you've done. I am truly angry this time." The butler added, "It's the first time the chairwoman has ever been so harsh with the young master." He then respectfully suggested, "Young madam, please go rest. Your room has been prepared." Arya was half asleep when she heard the butler's voice outside. "Young master, how did it go?" She opened her eyes, confused. Had he come back already? Adrian's tired voice came from outside the door. "Tell Grandma their attitude is firm. This might be trouble." The butler relayed the matriarch's suggestion. "What if you take the young madam with you to explain?" Adrian hesitated. In her current state, she probably couldn't handle it. "I'll think of another way." After dismissing the butler, he pushed open the bedroom door and walked in. Arya quickly turned over, her back to him. For some reason, she didn't want him to know she was awake. Hearing his footsteps, Arya tensed up, her mind racing. Adrian went into the bathroom, thinking that if he made Arya go, she would only get hurt again. The image of her devastated face flashed in his mind, and he made his decision. He couldn't let her get hurt again. Adrian dried himself off and walked out of the bathroom completely naked. Hearing the sound of the shower, Arya's eyes had widened. He was showering in her room? He usually used the guest room. The mattress dipped beside her, and her mind went blank. What was that sound? Feeling someone lie down next to her, Arya trembled, screaming silently. "He's going to sleep in the same bed with me?" His warm breath on her back made Arya shiver. What was he doing? Adrian, seeing this, was surprised. Has she been awake this whole time? He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her into a tight embrace. His mood instantly improved, and a smile touched his lips. Hearing his heartbeat so close to her ear, Arya's eyes flew open, and she came face to face with his firm chest. The smooth skin and perfect muscles, though she had seen them before, still amazed her. It's perfect. The man was holding her, completely naked, and his strong, masculine scent enveloped her. Arya's face flushed, and she froze, afraid to move and touch anything more. Adrian's voice suddenly broke the silence. "The Korean chairman and his wife are furious. I went to explain, but they made me wait for a long time and still wouldn't see me." Forgetting their awkward position, Arya asked anxiously, "What will happen if the deal falls through?" Adrian tightened his grip. "If it fails, all of the Vance Corporation's other projects in Korea will be affected. That's why Grandma and I spent so much time planning this. I never thought it would all fall apart." Arya looked up in shock, her face pressing against his bare chest. Adrian gently booped her nose. Arya blushed, her heart racing. The president chuckled. "My dear, do you have any idea how much pressure your husband is under right now?" Seeing her undisguised worry, Adrian couldn't help but smile. Arya's face turned crimson, and she quickly looked down. For a moment, she had thought he was incredibly handsome. Adrian pulled her even closer, their bodies pressed together. He cupped her chin and leaned in. Just as his lips were about to touch hers, Arya sharply turned her head away, her expression a mix of panic and restraint. Adrian froze, momentarily stunned. Arya stammered, "I'm just your contract wife. How would I know about any of that?" The words contract wife echoed in his mind. The president gritted his teeth. It was a term he had come up with, so why did it sound so grating now? He suddenly laughed. "I'm not going to touch you. I was just feeling lonely and wanted someone equally lonely to hold." It was the first time Arya had ever heard him sound so vulnerable. "Let's get some sleep. After dinner, we'll go out for a walk and relax." Arya was surprised. "Go for a walk tonight?" Before she could ask, the man had closed his eyes and fallen asleep. Listening to his steady breathing, she realized he must have been exhausted. Her heart softened. Feeling his arm wrapped tightly around her waist, she thought, "Just this once, I'll let you hold me." That evening, a well-rested Adrian and Arya walked into a clothing store. All the women inside swooned. "That man is so tall and handsome." The store manager, drawn by the commotion, looked over and her eyes widened in shock. It was the president of the Vance Corporation. Adrian began, "Bring out all of this season's new arrivals in—" He paused, his gaze dropping to Arya's chest. The woman scowled. "What are you looking at?" Adrian smirked. In the smallest size, Arya's fragile heart shattered. In a tone that left no room for argument, Adrian said, "Go try them on. See which one suits you." Arya grumbled, but decided it was easier to just comply. The president scrolled through his phone, bored as he waited. When he heard footsteps and looked up, he saw her in an elegant pleated purple dress. He was stunned, speechless. Adrian looked away, flustered, but very pleased with the store's selection. In a good mood, he ordered, "We'll take them all." Arya was flabbergasted. This was too extravagant. The president told her to pick out anything else she liked. "It's not often we get to go shopping. If you like it, buy it. Don't worry about the cost." Arya smiled. He was doing this to cheer her up, so why not enjoy it? She started to browse. Suddenly, her eyes fixed on a shirt hanging high up on a rack, and she asked for it to be taken down. Adrian, right there in the middle of the store, took off his own shirt, revealing his muscular, perfect physique. He put on the shirt Arya had picked out, struck a handsome pose, and asked, "How do I look?" Arya was full of admiration and nodded enthusiastically. Suddenly, her gaze stopped, and she stared intently at a spot on his collar. She stood on her tiptoes, reached up, and wrapped her arms around his neck. Her expression was focused as she carefully smoothed out a wrinkle. Adrian stared, stunned. It was the first time she had ever initiated such close contact. Arya, unaware of how intimate her actions were, was just focused on his shirt. Adrian couldn't help but smile. Her natural intimacy was like that of a proper wife. She looked up and met his intense gaze, only then realizing how close they were standing. The president blushed and opened his mouth to say something, but he was too nervous to form a complete sentence. Arya's face was burning, her heart pounding. The man pulled her into a tight embrace, his heart beating faster and faster. He took a deep breath, gathered his courage, and was about to confess his feelings. Arya looked at him, a mix of nervousness and anticipation churning inside her. She felt like her heart was about to leap out of her throat. Adrian held her small hand, which helped steady him. He was just about to speak when a flirtatious voice interrupted. "President Vance, what a coincidence. I didn't expect to see you here." Arya jumped, quickly pulling her hand back and stumbling away. Adrian felt the emptiness in his hand and shot a glare at the newcomer. He looked at Rhiannon's triumphant smile. "What are you doing here?" The two of them locked eyes, sparks flying, a silent battle of wills raging between them. He glared at her, thoroughly annoyed. Rhiannon sighed dramatically. "I finally managed to get some time for shopping, and who do I run into? But I guess with the Vance headquarters here, it's not that surprising." She then smiled and invited them. "Since it's such a coincidence, would you two like to join me for a drink?" Adrian looked at Arya, seeking her opinion. The woman was speechless. The three of them soon found a coffee shop. Rhiannon was curious about their relationship. Finally, the secret can be revealed. The air was suddenly silent as they both looked at her without a word. Hearing the word secret, Adrian raised an eyebrow and laughed. He turned to Arya and said teasingly, "Well, that depends on whether my wife is willing to reveal it." Rhiannon was shocked. The memory of the social media post with the matching watches flashed in her mind. It was them. She shrieked in disbelief. "He called you his wife?" Arya gave a dry laugh and shot a glare at the man. Adrian explained, "This was going to come out eventually. How else would I explain suddenly having a son?" Rhiannon held up a hand. "Wait, don't say another word. Let me process this." Her face was a mask of shock. "You called her your wife? And you said you have a son?" Adrian calmly added, "It's probably a son, but it's too early to tell. Of course, I'd be happy with a daughter too." Rhiannon was speechless. She grabbed a cup of coffee. She downed it in one go and slammed the cup on the table. She clutched her head, unable to recover. This secret was a bombshell. Adrian calmly changed the subject. "Are you in the city just for a shopping spree, Ms. Rhiannon?" She answered irritably, "My boss chewed me out because our negotiations with the Vance Group failed. I came here to blow off some steam. I've been negotiating with you for years and I've never won once. It's so frustrating." A faint smile touched Adrian's lips. "That's normal. Your boss has never beaten me either." But then his eyes caught sight of a stray hair next to the coffee cup and his brow furrowed. The germaphobe in him was instantly uncomfortable. He saw Arya about to drink her coffee. He immediately stood up and pulled her with him. "It's getting late. We should be heading home." Rhiannon, seeing Arya's disappointed expression, smiled. "Well, I'm just here to have fun. If you're free tomorrow, we can go shopping together." Arya's eyes lit up, and she looked at the man expectantly. "Can we?" Her adorable expression melted Adrian's heart. He blushed and nodded. "Of course." With his permission, Arya happily linked her arm with his, and they headed home. Rhiannon watched them leave, thinking, "Adrian Vance, you've finally met your match." A smug smile spread across her face. "Should I congratulate you?" The next day, in front of a bustling mall, Rhiannon checked her watch anxiously. It was already 9 a.m. Where was she? Just then, Arya came running up, out of breath. "I'm so sorry, I'm late." Rhiannon smiled. "I always thought Adrian Vance would never get married. I guess he decided to go all in. Buy one, get one free." She looked at Arya's simple, casual outfit and remarked, "The young madam of the Vance Corporation is surprisingly down to earth." Arya linked her arm with hers. This is my first time shopping in the city. I'll need you to show me the ropes. All right, for the sake of the pregnant lady, Rhiannon yawned. She had been woken up at 6 a.m. by a call from Adrian. You will accompany Arya shopping today and ensure her safety. If anything happens to her, you will be held responsible. The call had nearly made her eyes pop out. It seemed President Vance was unusually protective of his little wife. With the fashion expert Rhiannon leading the way, they first went to a jewelry store. Then they went to a clothing store to pick out dresses. Arya, in a sea blue mermaid gown, looked like a princess from the ocean. Meanwhile, Rhiannon, in a sexy traditional dress, showed off her fiery figure. They were both stunning in their own unique ways. It was the first time Arya had had so much fun shopping with a friend. But Rhiannon, mindful of her duty, suggested they find a place to rest after 2 hours. Arya agreed, but then she saw a familiar figure in the distance. It was the chairman's wife. What was she doing here? Oh no, she's in danger. Arya shoved her bags into Rhiannon's arms. She rushed toward the chairman's wife. She pushed the chairman's wife out of the way without thinking. But she couldn't get out of the way in time and was hit by the car, sent flying to the ground. Arya clutched her stomach, a sharp, searing pain shooting through her. She trembled and cried out in panic. My baby! Rhiannon's heart leaped into her throat. She dropped everything and ran over. The chairman's wife was also shaken and quickly apologized, only then realizing that the person who had saved her was Arya. Rhiannon held Arya, screaming, Lady, she just saved your life. Help me call an ambulance. Arya's vision was blurring. Rhiannon, my stomach hurts so much. Save my baby. Nothing can happen to my baby. Rhiannon tried to comfort her. Don't worry, you and the baby will be fine. But she was panicking inside. If anything happened to the baby, how would she ever explain it to Adrian? In the Vance Corporation's conference room, a shareholder meeting was underway. Suddenly, the president's phone vibrated. Adrian answered, and after hearing just a few words, his face went pale, his mind blank. He abandoned the important meeting without a word of explanation and bolted from the room. The conference room fell into a dead silence. Alex was stunned. He had never seen the president so frantic. He quickly announced that the meeting was paused and rushed after him. Adrian didn't wait for his driver. He jumped into his own car and sped toward the hospital, wishing he could teleport there. The chairman's wife thanked Arya profusely. If it weren't for you, I don't know what would have happened. Arya smiled and tried to reassure her. It's all right. I would have saved anyone in that situation. Rhiannon was furious. If that driver had hit your stomach, do you think you would have been able to keep this baby? Arya knew she was right, and not wanting to embarrass the chairman's wife, looked at Rhiannon with a pitiful expression. Suddenly, the door burst open and Adrian rushed in, shouting, Are you okay? Everyone jumped. Rhiannon broke out in a cold sweat. Speak of the devil. Adrian only had eyes for Arya. He grabbed her hand, his face beaded with sweat, panting too hard to speak. Arya was taken aback by his uncharacteristically flustered state. I'm fine, she said quickly. She tried to signal with her eyes that the chairman's wife was right behind him. Adrian was confused. Why was she looking down? Was her stomach hurting? He immediately grew anxious, leaning down to press his ear against her belly. He listened for a moment, puzzled. It was quiet. Arya was mortified. What was he doing? Was he an idiot? Rhiannon sighed and turned away. She never thought she'd see the brilliant President Vance act so foolishly. The room was silent. Adrian kept asking, What's wrong? Are you sure you're not hurt? Rhiannon thought to herself, if the great president wasn't genuinely worried about Arya, he wouldn't be acting so childishly. Adrian persisted, Are you sure you're okay? Should we get you checked out? Arya had no choice but to whisper, The chairman's wife is here. The president finally noticed there was someone else in the room. He turned and exclaimed in surprise, Madam Chairman? What are you doing here? The woman explained awkwardly, Mrs. Vance was saving me. I am so sorry. My carelessness put her in danger. Adrian replied politely, Please don't blame yourself. Are you injured? I'm fine. If you need anything, please let me know. I should be going. She saw their tightly clasped hands and understood that their feelings for each other were genuine. She declined Adrian's offer to see her out and left, satisfied. Rhiannon couldn't believe the elegant woman Arya had saved was such an important figure. She tried to sneak away but was caught by Adrian. Thank you for taking care of Arya today. Rhiannon waved her hand. I'm just glad you're not blaming me. I'll leave you two alone. Call me if you need anything. Now only the two of them were left in the room, facing each other in silence. Arya suddenly realized her hand was still tightly held in his. She blushed and quickly pulled it away. Adrian curled his fingers, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes. Why does she always pull away from me? The chairman's wife? Arya began, but Adrian cut her off sharply. Who gave you permission to do that? Arya looked up, confused, to see his eyes blazing with fury. She didn't understand why he was so angry. The next moment, Arya touched her stomach. Of course. The reason he was so angry was that she had risked the baby. Arya's expression fell, and she lowered her head, murmuring, "I'm sorry." Adrian's heart ached. He knew his foolish girl was overthinking things again. His own anger surged. He stood up and ordered, "For the next few days, you're not going anywhere. You're staying in this hospital." Seeing that he was truly angry, Arya bit her lip, her face full of hurt. Adrian's brow furrowed, his resolve softening. He didn't know what to say. Just then, Alex burst in, immediately sensing the tense atmosphere. "What is it?" the president asked. Alex answered nervously. "The doctor said the driver only hit the young madam's leg. The baby is not harmed." A murderous glint flashed in Adrian's eyes. "Speak clearly. Am I that intimidating?" Alex flinched and quickly added, "The person who hit the young madam is from a company that's partnering with one of our subsidiaries." The president's expression was stormy. "Which company?" "Dragon Biotech. They're this year's raw material supplier. It's a subsidiary recently acquired by the Moss Corporation. Their general manager is currently in the city for the partnership and to meet with the president of Moss Corporation, Caden Moss." Adrian's eyes narrowed. "Caden Moss?" Alex continued. "Mr. Moss was informed of the young madam's injury and had his assistant call." The president was surprised. "He wants to see Arya?" The assistant replied, "Mr. Moss said he wants to come to the hospital to apologize in person." Adrian's expression darkened. For some reason, he had a bad feeling. If Caden Moss saw Arya, he felt like he might lose her. The thought of Caden Moss, the one man who was his equal, made him uneasy. The thought of losing her in particular was what startled him. Losing her? The words shocked him. Why would I even think that? Arya, seeing his changing expressions, asked with concern what was wrong. She smiled, trying to show she cared, but he cut her off. "Mr. Moss is a busy man. He shouldn't trouble himself with such minor matters." With that, he strode out of the room, leaving her with only his back. "My wife is not feeling well. She should rest in the hospital." Arya was completely baffled. What was wrong with him? He had suddenly become so cold. She racked her brain, trying to remember Dragon Biotech and Caden Moss. The names sounded familiar, but she couldn't place them. In frustration, she cried out, "I don't even know him!" Meanwhile, Caden Moss was mixing perfumes. He had just received the news. It was only natural for him to pay a visit to offer his apologies. Why was Adrian Vance being so protective of his wife? Was she hiding some kind of secret? He instructed his men to invite President Vance for tea, wanting to size up the business tycoon. After everyone had left, Caden picked up a photo that was always on his desk. The girl in the photo had the same face as Arya, but a completely different aura. Caden murmured to himself, "Nora, do you think I'll see that girl again? Is she an angel you sent to love me in your place?" Just then, a knock came at the door. Caden placed the photo face down and told them to enter. "President Vance has accepted your invitation. However, as the host, he is already waiting for you at the Majestic Hotel." Caden replied calmly, "I see. Tell President Vance I will be there on time." He stood up and looked out the window, a confident smile on his face. "Adrian Vance, we're finally going to face off." At that moment, the Korean chairman, having heard what happened from his wife, he personally called Arya and invited her to meet him at the Majestic Hotel. Arya cheered. If this went well, she could finally go home and see her mother. She could buy her some nice food. Her mom would be so happy. Lost in her happy thoughts, Arya had no idea that she, Caden Moss, and Adrian Vance were about to meet, their fates finally intertwining. Arya arrived at the hotel on time, her steps light as she got into the elevator. She didn't see Caden Moss walk past behind her. Just as the elevator doors were closing, the man paused and spun around, but the doors were already shut. "Did I just see that girl?" He smiled and shook his head. He must have been seeing things. How could she possibly be here? Ding. The elevator arrived at her floor. The moment she entered the room, the chairman's wife greeted her with a warm hug, thanking her again for saving her. The chairman explained that he had been planning to return to his country after the incident, but his wife had told him that their relationship didn't seem like an act. So, he had decided to give her a chance to explain. Arya's eyes lit up. She eagerly explained everything from the beginning. "It's true that Adrian and I got married and are having a child. I was set up by my best friend, Isabelle, and on that night, I lost the most important thing to me." Seeing the girl's sad expression, the chairman's wife was filled with sympathy. But Arya quickly smiled. "Adrian is a man who values relationships and doesn't run from his responsibilities, so we got married." His wife added, "Although they deceived us, President Vance's affection for his wife is genuine. I saw it with my own eyes. I believe they truly love each other." Arya was touched that the chairman's wife was speaking up for her. The chairman stared at her intently and asked directly, "Do you genuinely love your husband?" Arya was taken aback, her mind going blank. "Do I love Adrian? Do I have the right to love him? We're just in a contract marriage." But then, memories of their warm moments together flashed in her mind. Arya looked up and smiled, answering with certainty. I like him. But liking and loving were two different things. Saying she liked him wasn't a lie, was it? With a satisfactory answer, the atmosphere at the dinner table became much more relaxed. I've always heard that the best food in the city is at the Majestic restaurant, and it truly lives up to its reputation. But it's a bit lonely with just the two of us. Thank you for joining us tonight, Mrs. Vance. Arya smiled. Whenever you need, I'd be happy to be your guide. In the adjacent room, Caden Moss paused. Why was he hearing that girl's voice here? He thought he was hallucinating again. Just then he heard footsteps. Caden looked up to see Adrian Vance striding in, full of energy. Mr. Moss, what a surprise to see you here. This city is Vance territory, after all. It's our duty to be the host. We can't let you treat us. Caden stood up and extended his hand. On the contrary, I should be the one apologizing to you and your wife. As Adrian shook his hand, he instantly sized up his opponent. He was indeed his equal. Caden, too, was secretly surprised. This Adrian Vance was even more formidable than the rumors suggested. The two of them locked eyes, their faces all smiles, but their inner demons were baring their teeth, sparks flying. While Adrian and Caden sized each other up, sparks flying, Arya was next door, getting along famously with the chairman and his wife. The wife said sympathetically, I can't believe you had such a difficult childhood. Have you ever thought about finding your birth parents? Maybe they had no choice but to leave you. If I ever meet them, I will fulfill my duties as a daughter. But my mother here will always be my mother. Arya clenched her fists. Her face shone with hope. My greatest wish in life is to see my mother happy. The chairman and his wife were stunned, remarking to each other, what a good girl. The Vance Corporation is lucky to have her. Arya blushed. Excuse me, I need to use the restroom. Standing in front of the mirror, Arya breathed a sigh of relief. It was close. She had passed the test. Surely nothing else could go wrong now. Just then, Caden Moss walked up behind her, surprised to see her reflection. Was it really her? Feeling his gaze, Arya turned around, confused. Caden smiled elegantly. I thought I was mistaken, but it really is you. We meet again. Arya looked at him blankly, having no memory of the overly familiar man. Caden's face fell. It was clear she didn't remember him. He patiently reminded her, I'm Caden Moss. We've met twice. Arya's eyes lit up in recognition. It's you. Did you chase me all the way here to pay me back? Caden was crushed. In this woman's eyes, was he nothing more than a debt to be paid? Speechless, he took out a black credit card and handed it to her. Here is the payment for the repairs. Please accept it. Arya's jaw dropped. She had never seen someone so eager to give her money. Caden looked down at her with a smile. Now that I've paid for the repairs? Meanwhile, in his private room, Adrian was growing impatient. What was taking her so long in the restroom? Was Caden testing him? He wondered what Arya was doing. He should give her a call. The thought of her brought a smile to his face, and he stood up to go outside. I don't want a black card. Can you give me cash? But as soon as he stepped out of the room, he heard a familiar voice. Adrian followed the voice and saw the two of them chatting happily. Arya was beaming as she accepted Caden's card. I'll just withdraw the cash and give this back to you. Then we'll be even. Caden's gaze was both gentle and commanding, a soft smile on his lips. Adrian's eyes turned to ice. He felt a surge of betrayal and a fire of rage ignited within him. He clenched his fists and stormed away. Now that you've accepted my apology, Caden said, can you tell me your name? Arya was about to answer when her eyes widened. A wave of nausea hit her and she covered her mouth, rushing toward the restroom. Excuse me for a moment. Oh no, morning sickness again. Caden was caught completely off guard, utterly baffled. He shook his head and couldn't help but laugh. This woman was truly one of a kind. His assistant arrived. President Vance said something urgent came up at home and he had to leave. Then we'll leave too, Caden said with a soft laugh, turning to go. My dear girl, we will definitely meet again. Arya emerged from the restroom, pale and exhausted. But when she looked up, Caden was gone. Looking at the black card in her hand, she murmured, I guess there are still good people in the world. As she approached her private room, she heard a familiar voice, and was surprised to see Adrian was there too. She was about to greet him, but the moment she opened her mouth, he shot her a look of pure fury. She froze, swallowing her words. Why is he so angry? Adrian said politely to the chairman. Arya needs to rest, so I'll take her home now. I'll visit you again soon. The chairman was understanding. Of course, this was our oversight after all. The moment they were outside, Adrian's face was a mask of cold fury. He dragged Arya by the arm, forcing her to stumble to keep up. What are you doing? Let me go, she yelled. The president yanked open the car door and shoved her inside. She fell hard against the seat and snapped, Adrian Vance, what is wrong with you? He glared at her, his voice cold. Let you come out today. Weren't you supposed to be resting in the hospital? Arya was completely bewildered and was about to explain, but he cut her off, his eyes burning with rage. Don't what me? Who gave you permission? Arya lost her temper too. Why are you yelling at me? I came to see the chairman and his wife for your sake and for the Vance Corporation. Seeing that she felt no remorse, Adrian roared, So you could leave the hospital to meet another man? Arya was stunned. Another man? The chairman was a man, sure, but he was in his 50s and his wife was there. And what was with that look in his eyes? Did she not even have the right to see other people? Arya closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Would you please get your facts straight? Do you even know why I was here today? But all she heard was his icy voice. My business is none of your concern. When did it become your place to interfere in my affairs? Arya stared at him in shock, unable to believe what she was hearing. Arya got out of the car and looked up at the man's cold face, her own expression hardening. Then I won't interfere in your business anymore. Are you satisfied? She then bowed respectfully. I'm sorry, President Vance. I just remembered I have to go back to the hospital for my shot. Goodbye. With that, she turned and walked away, not seeing the man's hand reach out from his pocket as if to stop her. Adrian watched her retreating back. He clenched his fist and slammed it on the roof of the car in frustration. That wasn't what he meant to say. Why did it come out like that? But then he remembered what he had seen. When did Arya and Caden Moss meet? And the way he looked at her. It was definitely not ordinary. The fire in Adrian's eyes burned hotter, a heavy feeling settling in his chest. Arya walked alone under the streetlights, feeling something cold on her cheek. She reached up and saw a glistening teardrop. She couldn't believe it. When did I start crying? She covered her face in shame. How ridiculous. She was crying over Adrian Vance. Arya returned to the hospital, still wiping away tears. The next second, her eyes widened and her jaw nearly hit the floor. Her once plain hospital room was now sparkling with gold. She stumbled back, wondering, is this really my room? She checked the room number. 303. She was in the right place. Just then, she heard the bodyguards behind her say in unison, Mr. President. Arya turned in surprise to see Adrian striding toward her. She scowled. What are you doing here again? Adrian stared at her swollen, red eyes, a sharp pain stabbing at his heart. But he couldn't find the words to say. Remembering their fight, Arya found a surge of courage and met his gaze, telling herself not to back down. The president closed his eyes for a moment, then turned and walked into the hospital room. Arya was stunned. He was ignoring her? But when she saw where he was going, she panicked. Hey, why are you going into my room? She rushed in after him, trying to stop him from taking over her space. But the moment she entered, she saw him taking off his shirt, revealing his muscular physique. She shrieked, her face turning beet red as she covered her eyes. Why are you taking off your clothes? Seeing her shy reaction, Adrian's lips curled into a satisfied smirk. I'm sleeping here, of course. After you left, the chairman invited me back, and we officially signed the contract between the Vance Corporation and his company. Arya cheered internally. That's great. But then she remembered, what did that have to do with her? As if he could read her mind, Adrian continued. The chairman's wife said she was very grateful for your explanation today. Arya peeked through her fingers, her eyes wide. She met his devilish gaze. Hearing him walk closer, she quickly covered her eyes again, refusing to look like a frightened little rabbit. He whispered, The chairman and his wife are still in the city. He paused, and when she curiously peeked again, she was met with his handsome face just inches away. Adrian grabbed her hands. So, we have to keep up the act, understand? Held tightly in his arms, his masculine scent enveloping her. Arya's heart pounded. Keep up the act? What does that mean? She understood the next moment. Adrian was staying here for the chairman and his wife to see. But even if it was an act, did he really have to move into her hospital room? Seeing her back to her vibrant self, Adrian couldn't help but smile. He turned and walked toward the bathroom, but then looked back, his tone leaving no room for argument. Come and scrub my back. You can't be serious. The pressure was immense. Seeing her reluctance, Adrian reminded her, Don't forget what I just told you. Arya felt like she was about to faint. How did it come to this? The president smirked. We have to keep up the act. The woman let out a soul-crushing scream. Are you a demon? President, in high spirits, took off his clothes. Well, I am your husband. Arya was dumbfounded. This was definitely a trap. In the bathroom, the sight of his perfect physique, his smooth skin practically glowing, made Arya blush. Seeing her practically drooling over him, Adrian gave a wicked smile. Thankfully, the ordeal was over soon. The next second, a towel was tossed at her head. The demon coldly said, Dry my hair, and went to get his laptop. Arya was annoyed. Was he still mad about what happened at the hotel? But this was so disrespectful. She angrily rubbed the towel all over his head, gritting her teeth and using all her strength. I'll rub you raw. Adrian, his head aching from the rough treatment, ordered, Do it properly. So demanding, the woman thought with a huff, but she lightened her touch. Soon his hair was mostly dry. Her task was complete, and she turned to leave. Adrian, without looking up, commanded, Where are you going? Come sit here. Arya was furious. Was he treating her like a maid? No way. She pretended not to hear. Adrian frowned, his voice turning colder. Sit down, or there will be consequences. Arya reluctantly sat across from him. She glared at him. The president softened his tone. If I don't finish this work soon, you'll have to go home by yourself. Arya puffed out her cheeks, thinking stubbornly, so what if I go home by myself? It's not a big deal. The man told her, if I don't go back with you, they'll know something is up. Arya was still annoyed. How was he like a mind reader, always knowing what she was thinking? She stood up and tried to drag her chair closer to him, but it was too heavy. She had to inch it forward, like a turtle with its shell. The president couldn't help but laugh. Seeing that she was about to explode, he quickly got serious and asked her to be his assistant and take notes. Arya snuck a glance at him, thinking he could definitely make a living on his looks alone. Adrian, feeling her gaze, saw her blushing and was secretly pleased with his own charm, unaware that her thoughts had already taken a wild turn. He then happily immersed himself in his work. When he was finished, he turned to her. Did you get all the important parts? But Arya had long since fallen asleep, her head resting on her notebook, soft snores escaping her lips. Adrian tried several times to wake his irresponsible assistant, but she was out cold. He pulled the notebook away and saw that she was sound asleep. A vein throbbed in the president's forehead. He then noticed she was drooling. He knelt down and gently wiped the corner of her mouth. Arya frowned in her sleep and mumbled, "No." Adrian tensed. Had he woken her up? But then Arya bit his finger and giggled. "Pork knuckle, don't run away." The president was at a loss. He sighed and decided to let it go. He gently lifted her into his arms and carried her to the bed. Seeing her sleeping soundly, her cheeks flushed, Adrian's heart melted. She was so cute when she slept. He blushed and leaned in to kiss her, but was interrupted. Arya shook her head in her sleep, her face contorted in pain, and pleaded, "Don't be angry." The memory of their cold argument on the street flashed in his mind. Adrian was filled with regret and heartache. It was my fault. I don't know why I got so angry. He gently placed her on the bed, carefully tucking a stray strand of hair behind her ear. He smiled softly. "Get some good sleep. I like it better when you're smiling."